Tuesday when I started the Keshe Plasma Reactor group. Oh, by the way, everybody, welcome. Let me, I'm getting a lot of feedback. I'm not sure where that's from yet. Okay, now it's better.
That was for me because live stream came up on my screen too.
Okay. And Mark, I think I'll have to mute you as well. Oh,
Quickly, live stream is working on my end.
okay, good. So yeah, try to mute while I'm speaking at least, so that the live stream doesn't come through and all that. All right, yeah. Let me announce things here. Sorry for such a long delay in getting things going. It's the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group. Normally it's Tuesday, July 26th, but things took a while, so it's Wednesday, July 27th, 2016. And once again, we're gathered here to do who knows what for how long, but I'm sure we'll find our way through the maze of information and detail that's available to us in this plasma world that we're entering into as we explore more and more. And we are explorers and voyagers that come upon this work, it seems. All right, enough ado. People probably think I'm drinking martinis in the back. You see all the martini glasses. But you're wrong, totally wrong. I'm actually into, today, I'm into mugs. And these are Moscow Mule mugs. I bet you Shandor knows what these are about.
I think they are a nice copper.
That's right, and not just copper. Just excuse me, let me get my handy dandy X-Acto knife for this job. Yeah, so I just couldn't resist. I was at the big box discount store. Remain nameless in case they get implied that I'm experimenting with their equipment or something. But I saw it and I just kind of, well, I fell in love with them. It comes right down to it in a engineering kind of way. And look how nicely they're packaged, you know, all protected and so on. It's too bad because I'm too damaged to them. But here it is. This is the...
It's a beautiful shape.
It's a Mikasa. Okay, well that's a brand name, I guess. It's a Moscow Mule mugs. What would you call it, Shandor? Is there another name for this?
I don't know any other name for it, sorry.
Okay.
I'm not Moscovite to know so much deeply in the details. But it's a beautiful shape.
Yes, it is. And it's got a nice shape. I'll probably end up taking the handle off of it and for my rotating experiments.
And it seems to be cold pressed, so it's from one piece and not that which is soldered. It's no soldering there.
That's right. It's not solder, but what it does have that's unusual that I'm going to take advantage of is the inside.
Silver covered.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Silver and copper, all in one
This
piece.
is not the place of the promotions and advertisements, but you may whisper me privately where from to order the same. I wish to have something like that.
Right. Well, I know they're available actually on the internet because I have seen pictures of them. But this just showed up at the big box Canadian store that ends with Co. And that's you know where they happen to be this week. They may not be there a week or two later or whatever because they buy a lot of them at a time. Don't always keep things in stock, but they like high quality things, and this is really nice. Comes in a box of 4, and they cost about, what was it? It was about $40. You know, it's kind of expensive, about $10 each.
It's 120.
Pardon me?
Price. You got it at a bargain price. It's
well, I think so because Okay, now here's what I envision with it. I mean, you can do a lot of things with this, but I thought, well, silver and copper, both pure. Okay, it's plated silver. It's probably not that thick, but it's thick enough that you don't see the copper plating through it or anything. And, pure copper, it's solid copper. And it seems to have actually a brass handle on it. I wonder if it's magnetic. No, there's no magnetic to any of it.
No, so the handle is cast molded.
It's probably, it might be gold-plated copper as well. It's possible. No, it's probably zinc or something like that, and they, soldered it on or whatever. But what I envision, what I would like to do with this is basically nano coat the whole thing. Put it all in caustic. That'll make this outside the black nano copper, copper oxide coating. The inside will be the nano silver. And basically, my idea is to put a mixture of salt water and GANS water, plasma water, inside as well as outside, and create a cell with it, basically. And then we can have a rotating situation as well in the center if we wish, but it should create a cell with this nano-coated and the salt environment inside and outside. Basically, you've got two electrodes. You've got the copper and the salt, which is both conducting, while the nano copper actually will be a much different situation with the salt. So the salt is an electrode. You can stick a wire into the salt water and it's an electrode. You can stick a wire into this salt water and it's an electrode. This one would be connected to the silver inside, and this electrode over here connected to the copper oxide. So right away you'll have a potential, okay, but the potential of this is that it can be self-recharging. That would be what I'd be trying to aim for, that this in the salt solution may be able to re-energize itself from the ambient fields, basically. So that's my hope. Just one quick vision on that. I've got probably 100 different projects, 100 different ways I could take this. I also want to do the same thing and spin the whole deal. Spinning this in the solution, either in... Say again, pardon?
In other words, like a capacitive battery?
Yes, right. I was just looking at the other day on saltwater capacitors, for example. There's people that you take a 5-gallon bucket, big white bucket, and you put bottles inside, beer bottles usually, of salt water with a copper electrode in the middle, sometimes carbon, and put salt water around these bottles, and the electrode put down into that salt water. And basically you can charge it. It's a high capacity capacitor and acts like a battery capacitor. You can build batteries or you can build capacitors with the same basic idea with salt water. It's an old idea. It's old, going back to Nikola Tesla, who built, for example, capacitors using salt water and oil. Oil's the other part of the saltwater battery. You pour, basically, if you would use a bottle, this is not a beer bottle.
Don't forget about special transformer oil for electric transformers.
Yeah, and you don't even have to use special oil. You can use just cheap, vegetable oil. I've seen it for $5 for 4 liters or 5 liters today. It's like super cheap. You should be running it in vehicles, although it stinks so bad. But basically, the way they do it is you pour salt water up to about here, say, and then you pour oil in up to the top, and the electrode goes in, and there's no air, it's just the electrode, a bit of caulking at the top. very similar to what we would see in what's called the Baghdad battery, which is probably one of the first forms of a similar capacitor battery. And the way it works is that kind of battery actually works very, very well for taking impulses and storing them and using it as a capacitor bank that would take many expensive and high quality capacitors arranged in a special array in order to do the same job. So,
About the plasma battery, you see, according to our old knowledge, because it's similar to the electric batteries, some people think that maybe it was a kind of electric battery because it looks like. But also, it could be a plasma battery which works in quite different ways.
okay, well, Mark just fired up his.
Maybe we will get a better knowledge about such old artifacts as well. Because
I think so, yes. I
we
think
are
so.
learning now the plasma energy and not just the electric energy.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Battery is not being used for electroplating.
It's a theory. It's not proven. It just they found a
Definitely it's a
pot
theory.
with some metals inside, and they suppose that maybe they used it. At least we know that they have been found such a plated artifacts also. So it's well possible.
Yeah, and we do know that the scientists of today are, well, when it comes right down to it, rather ignorant about the actual processes going on in electroplating and electrolysis and this HHO business and so on, because not because they're ignorant. I mean, the results of hooking A to B and all the details about it has been specified for many years, for many
Yes, it's
decades. But they're ignorant in the sense that they don't really know what's going on the micro level, even though they've tried to measure it, because some of the byproducts they only last for a few picoseconds and they're gone. They don't even have ways to measure reactions that take place on that kind of time frequency even until recently, and even now the instruments are crude. So they say, well, we get this byproduct of this carbonate and this sulfate or whatever due to the chemical analysis of what the results are. But they haven't looked at the processes in between in detail. Now they're finding out, oh, geez, it went to this, and then it translated and bent and twisted and went to that, and then it went to this and that and this and that and this, all within a
let
few
me say,
microseconds.
unfortunately, this way of reduced thinking, it is due to the education system which was introduced several decades ago, when the kids are trained to put together pieces of puzzle, which is only one way how to solve it. In the
Oh,
time
good,
I was a
good
kid, we had
point.
such a building stones or pieces of wood which you could make any shape. But now children
Ah,
get only puzzles, the triangle shall fit into the triangle hole, and so on. And by
yes,
the time
yes.
they get to be engineers, they are so much educated that they cannot think about evaluate what they see by observing it, because they just put a label. Okay, this is a kind of that from the page 235 of the book.
Yes,
And
right.
that's why you get many engineers, of course there are exceptions, but many engineers are just putting together pieces from the catalogs.
Yes, yes,
It's going to
exactly.
get a lot harder for these guys to explain things that are going to be coming out in the next while, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, who knows what's going to be coming out and flying by? You never know.
Wow, beautiful.
Whoa.
Always you surprise us with such a nice things.
I'll show a little more about that later, but I see Marquez's video on, and maybe we should have a look at that. I think when he turns his video on, we should pay attention. So let me try to get that up on my second screen here. I'm sure you have some story behind what we're seeing, and probably it's related something to what we're talking about. Is that true or not true, Mark?
That I don't know, because I'm just a creator, and I'm just doing the things that I'm taught by everybody else here. I'm just taking everybody else's lead, and I'm just trying to write down and learn as much as I can. So I have experiments like you, just like you. We're all just doing stuff and hoping that things work. So if somebody has questions about things I've done, I mean, I've been on I don't know how many times, and you know my setup here in front, what you're looking at, and I've been taking the pH readings on it. And if we looked back upon videos prior to this, I had metals inside the containers, I had metals outside the containers, and this experiment's been going on for about 30 days now. I've taken pH readings. I've examined all the changes in the 6 containers. I kind of understand now because I had metals outside the containers and I had metals inside the containers. And then 15 days into the experiment, I took and swapped the metals from outside to inside to see if they would change the properties. I wrote down the pH properties. I don't know how to measure stuff, but I thought that the pH properties was a good way to start. I would like to say right now, stop myself for 1 second and say, Sandor, hello.
Hello.
I'm sorry that I cut you off when you were going to tell the story of your grandmother making soap. I feel so insulted that I even cut you off. I'm just sorry, and I just want to apologize. And in my heart,
No need to apologize. No problem.
so
No, when you talk, you give information to others, but when you listen, you get smarter because you get more knowledge.
well, that's why we're all here, and I'm willing to share as much as I can to everybody. And I got a ton of stuff here, and you know, this is just the beginning, and I don't want to take everybody else's time up, but I have just a couple of things here, you know, like the top layer, you know, and the pH and all that. That's a standard. We all know all this stuff. This is basic stuff, and we're going beyond that. The little containers down below, I did some small experiments with some titanium, some nickel chromium, and some but it created some things that I don't understand. I have 2 carbon rods, which you see the red and black are connected to, and they don't have any power, but they're showing that the meter that you see right there is holding power. There's nothing else created there. It's just those 4 things are showing us that we have a connection in those carbon rods in the solution there.
What do you mean it's showing power? Is it it has a voltage, you mean, and continues?
Yes, it has a voltage. Well, the voltmeters on. Let's see, can I see?
Can you get an amperage reading on it?
Amps. Okay, if you want me to flip my voltmeter to amps.
Yeah, put it onto the milliamp range if you have that. Excuse me.
Well, it is on volt milliamps. You know, I could go down, and it would be to the 200 milliamps, but I had to, because it's
Yeah, try the 200 milliamps.
It's overload.
Okay, then try. Do you have a higher than 200 milliamp on it?
Well, yeah, then it goes to 2 milliamps, and it gets 0.505. And then I could go higher than that.
0.50, so half a
Yeah, so
half an amp.
like,
500 milliamps?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, put it on the amp scale. You're on what, the 2 amp scale, or what did it say?
Yep, 2 amp scale of milliamps.
Okay, so you have 0.505, 0.504, say 0.5.
Yes.
Okay, that's 500 milliamps, or 504 milliamps in this case.
Yes.
At what voltage was it now?
What voltage was it?
Yeah, turn it back to the volt scale.
Well, it's on the volt scale.
Okay, then how are you getting milliamps out of it?
Well, my volt meter, here, let me just bring it a little closer. Well, let me turn my screen so I see that it's clear.
How does this microphone sound?
You sounded good, Ron.
Much better, Ron.
You see my voltmeter now? And what it's connected to? Here, I'll bring my camera a little closer. No, huh?
Okay, so you're reading a half a volt,
Yes.
and bring it back up so I can see your scale again.
See, when you touch it, that's what messes it
Yep.
up.
Lift it up, lift it up. Okay. I mean,
Resistance is down down below to the left. I can see
yeah,
that.
no, I'm looking for the milliamp scale.
He's on the 2-volt scale.
He's not.
Yeah,
holding
so he's got a half a volt on that battery.
Right.
I believe the current is the lower left quadrant.
Down
Well,
there,
that would be ohms.
down there
Okay,
at 5 o'clock is where the volt scale is. He's got a 1.5 volt and a 5 volt that I can see.
Yes, that would be a battery, Ron. Or is it Ron? Yes, Ron. So if I flip this to a battery, a 1.5 battery, what it gives me?
a half a volt, same as the other one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, what is on the right-hand scale? Is that
Yeah, about 230 on the clock. 200 micro. Is that 200 micro?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what that looks like. Yeah.
Be 200 milliamps.
Yeah, I think about 2 o'clock on the scale is going to be your amperage.
200. Okay, so 200 million. Oh, is okay. I see it right here. Is 0.
Okay, next one.
We're up to the other 200, up about 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, so you've got no current flow, but you've got pressure. Well, no, there is a current flow there. It's very, very tiny. You can.
It's pulsing a negative pulse, right?
Yeah, well, it's the current flow is not stable. It's not in one direction. It's reversing itself. That's why it's going negative every once in a while, and it's too small for the meter to read.
It's like a heartbeat.
There is a current flow there.
Okay.
Just very, very tiny.
Okay. But this is silly stuff. So this is just what these are just small experiments. Does it mean anything? Do we need to focus on this?
Well, what it
Yeah,
means to me,
it's-
if the carbon rods are both absolutely identical chemically, everything is identical, you should have no galvanic response whatsoever. But you're getting a fairly significant galvanic response out of that. So there's got to be some difference between those two carbon rods.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out if it's able to sustain an amperage, an actual current as well. That's what I was trying to determine. I got a little distracted here. I missed that last part.
Okay, so
did we
let's-
find
I know I
amperage
don't
or
have a
not?
lot of time, so
Sorry?
can I move a little bit faster? So I have these two other questions, and I'll move my camera a little bit closer. Look at this. That's on the nickel wire that I have inside the solution, and it's all growing around one ring and not the other. And there's nothing connected to it. Nothing. 0. Look, it's all green, and I don't know if it's squirting out from the
What is the wire again? Sorry?
wires. I put the wire in caustic solution for about 2 weeks. Just a tablespoon of caustic solution with about just enough to cover the white, on the bottom of the ring. and then I would tip it every once in a while just to go up the side. So what happened was I was putting about a battery's worth of a 1.5 batteries worth of current through it, and it burnt right through it. Do you see how it burnt through?
Yeah, well, the caustic will eat away at the copper if you leave it in it for a long period of time like that. It'll just
Is there
basically tear
copper
it
and
down.
nickel?
Eh?
Copper and nickel? There's copper and nickel, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Nickel? You
Yeah,
say
this is
you
pure
have two
nickel.
wires?
Yes, two
If it's
pure
pure
nickel.
nickel, there's no copper in there, Mark.
Pardon me?
If it's pure nickel, there's no copper in it.
Right. This is pure copper. Or this pure nickel. Nickel. And then I nano-coated one, like I said, with the caustic solution. And the caustic solution has this green stuff growing around all the rings. The non-coated one is perfect. There's nothing on it. So
Well, you've got a differential there then.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I want to take it to another level, I had another metal that is just, it's kind of a funky metal, but it's a nickel chromium. And look what it did. And it was growing like there was no tomorrow. I don't know if you can see that. Wait a minute.
That's in a caustic solution, and you're putting current in there?
Well, it's a slight caustic because what I did, John, was I treated the metals with caustic, okay? For about 2 weeks, I just, a tablespoon of caustic and some water in the ring down below. And then I just tilted the container once in a while so that I could get it up on the wire because I wanted that to be nano coated. So it took me about 2 or 3 weeks to do this. I just, every night I came home and I tilted it on the wire. So then when we started learning about current, I'd put a battery's worth of current. And here's my current. See, it's a battery's worth. You see that? There's no amperage, no amps at all. It's just pure volts. It's like a battery, 1.5. I've never raised it. I've never touched it. So every day I came home and I have titanium, the carbon, nickel, and nickel chromium, and I would just change the, right now I have the current going to the titanium. Titanium is really nice. It gives me fluffy stuff. And it's been working about, all these three have had only 1 tablespoon of caustic to about, well, I don't want to touch them, but it's right to the bottom. And I think that's only like 100 milliliters of water. If I turned it right now, I could tell you for sure. But it's like 1 tablespoon. And then I could really figure out, I have it written down, how many grams, a tablespoon of caustic to how many grams of water there is. You know, the ratio. I tried to, it's all my stuff is 2 to 1. Oh, look. Oh, today we're talking, it's a funny thing that my zinc and my CO2 moves when I move and talk around and by it. And the funny thing is now, look, it has this, how it moved up the container. Because I'm hanging around here right now and we're talking about it. And this one, all this stuff has life. Everything has life right here, right now. It moves as I move. And I don't know why.
Is it not attracted to the copper oxide beside it or something?
It could be, Rick. I have no idea.
Um,
The whole universe is alive.
I have lots of stuff written down. I'm totally freaked out about all this stuff.
well, that would
I'm not
be
even showing you what I wanted to show you last week.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, maybe we should stop here because I'm sure there's other people that want to talk.
Well, let's see what the others have to say first. Then we'll come back to you
Yes,
a little bit later. How would that be?
yes, that'd be
Okay,
It's all
beautiful.
good,
great.
Mark, as long as your cat's not missing.
Pardon
Unless
me?
somebody wants to ask some questions about what I got going here, I don't,
It's all good as long as your cat's not missing.
pardon me?
It's all good as long as your cat is not missing.
As long as your
My,
cat is not missing. Hmm.
my cat,
Yeah.
my cat's coming along with me, but I don't have a cat. And if all the cats that I ever worked in homes with, like I just worked in a home that this lady just told me, my cats don't like people. And I worked all for the last like 3 or 4 or 5 days in her home, and the cats would not leave me alone. They laid by me. They wanted to be by me. They just looked at me. I couldn't believe it. So, anybody else got stuff? I'm happy as all get go.
I'm not sharing anything today. I had my time last week.
Hi, Denny. I
Okay,
love you.
Denny, we
I'm glad
won't
you're
lean
still
on
there.
you.
Were those cats talking to you, Mark?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to go there yet. But I will
Let's
say
carry
this.
on here.
Here, I'll give you this little bit. I
Okay.
want to give a shout out to the Ghana. I'm a old man that has a lot of creaky bones, and I put together. I showed a couple of times that I bought some stuff from um, Africa, the cocoa butter and the shea butter, and I put some Gants in it, some CO2 Gants, and I put it on my creaky old bones. And my God, it makes it feel so good. I'm so happy. I can, I'm happy. It feels yes.
Coconut butter, shea
I
butter.
took the cocoa and shea butter and put a little Gants in it
Yeah.
because I figured out that the cocoa and shea are just it holds it on our skin so that what we are putting in the Gants, like the CO2, and I put a little bit of um, um, my rapid release CH CUO the copper because I didn't want any, it's for our muscles and I didn't want any infection or anything like that. So I put a couple of drops in there too. But melted it all down and I put my finger in it and I rub it on my shoulders because that's the worst part for what I do. My shoulders hurt bad every night. They keep me up every night. But for the last 3 nights, it's beautiful. So
Right on. That's very interesting. I have found that the coconut oil is quite soothing for the skin, for skin afflictions and so on. And haven't tried the shea butter. Well, I have tried it in other concoctions, and it didn't work because it had other flavorings and perfumes in it and so on in that particular case. But the pure shea butter, I'm sure, is very good that way. And then we know for sure the CO2 GANs is very healthful, let's say. Seems full of healthy stuff. It's got the right stuff. It belongs on our skin, basically. And if it's got zinc in it, well, geez, that's what they use for skin problems is zinc ointment. Zinc oxide. That's what they use.
That's it.
Whoa, what do we got here now? Holy cow, this is the secret Maggrav generator factory, it looks like, on the... Coming along, I see you were showing this last week, but it's a little more involved now, eh?
a lot more, but I'll just let everybody look at it. Whoever wants to go next.
Can barely hear you there, Mark. Can you...
Sorry, I'm away from the mic.
Oh,
But
okay.
I just wanted to give a little, Denny, he says, oh, give us a little teaser. So
Sure,
I
yeah.
give you a little teaser and I'll let everybody else do their stuff. And if we have time, we can come back to it.
Right on.
We want to see what the launch mode looks like.
Sorry, your audio is really overamped there, but what was that?
I said we really want to see what the launch mode looks like.
I have that built.
Can I come in here for a minute? I have a comment about what we were just talking about. Hello, everybody, by the way. I heard Alex telling some people about, they were talking about using coconut oil and such. And he suggested that instead of using the coconut oil itself, that you make the fields of it. That is, you put the coconut oil on top of a container and you make some CO2. And then you can just use CO2 water forever and get the same results as using the coconut oil as well. Well, hello?
You could just, Mario, just repeat your main point there for me again.
Yeah, instead of using coconut oil itself, to make a gas of it. Not even make a gas of it, just put it on the container and make some CO2 gas. So if you're going to use CO2 on your skin, use the water of the CO2, put some coconut oil or whatever else you want, aloe or whatever, put it on a container, make the CO2 gas with the feels of the coconut oil. And then you can just use the gas water over and over again and rub it on your body. I've been using that on my skin for months now, and it's absolutely amazing, just the CO2 water. So
I agree.
Yeah, right. Instead of mixing the coconut oil itself.
No, they're two different things though. You mix the like you can use the coconut or the plasma water, CO2 plasma water, let's say, on maybe a skin problem or something. But if you want something that's going to last longer, that really sits and works on an area, like for example with Mark, he had a sore shoulder. So you put it on as a salve on the shoulder, and it works in, and it cools at the same time as it's a matrix for the GANs to actually work. It's basically a 3D vacuum space for it to have particles that are dispersed and so on, as opposed to just on a 2D skin surface, where it's a different effect. I think it's not as deep on when you just have the GANs water on the skin. It works really well on the surface, but I'm not convinced it works so well on the deep layer of the muscles and so on. What do you think, Mario?
Well, I was thinking then maybe put it in a pain pad. Use a pain pad. Put the water on that. Instead of using matter, use the GANs water. Use the fields.
Well, I don't know. Look at coconut oil. It's basically the GANs of the coconut in a way. It's the amino acids of the coconut, which is, if you look at coconut water, is the only substance known to man that you can directly substitute for blood. You can do a blood transfusion with coconut water right out of the coconut. So it's very much close to the body in terms of its structure, and I think the coconut oil is probably the closest to human body structure that we can have on our skin. And for example, there's a native tribe of some island, I don't know where it is, in the Philippines or somewhere, that when a child is born, they bathe them. I'll just put on my video briefly here. Oops, I didn't do it right. Second screen, there we go. There's this tribe that when a baby is born, they lather the baby from head to toe in coconut oil. Okay, give him a literal bath in coconut oil. And every day of that child's life, even when he becomes an adult, he has a bath in coconut oil. All over head to foot. And over half their calories are from coconut oil in that tribe. And they have no incidence of cardiovascular problems and have very good health. And I thought, whoa, that's pretty amazing. And I thought, I don't like oil to start with. It doesn't seem like a good substance to be using and putting on the skin and so on. But coconut oil in particular, it's not like other oils. It absorbs in, and it's very much diluted by water in the sense of when you eat it, it dissolves in the body very easily compared to other oils which leave that residue, that oily residue and so on. So I'm convinced that it's something that should be put on the skin, and it's an excellent medium to be transposing some of these other energies, I think, from the ganzas or other materials we might create. It's my opinion anyways.
We got a hand raised, and
Yes, we do have a hand raised. I better pay
I was
attention.
going to ask Mario too. Did he have any
Yeah.
luck in with his iodine making an iodine Gans?
Oh,
No, you know, I'm having a hard time ordering it online. I don't know what's happening. I have a really bad internet connection. I'm back in China again. I've evaporated some 2% solution of iodine that I got. I haven't. What I'm going to do is do what I just said about what I thought about the coconut oil. For now, I'll just put that container and make a Gans of CO2 using that iodine. Put it on the top, and I think I'll start drinking the water of that. But in the meantime, I need to get a stronger solution. And I actually, I'm open to suggestions. I don't really know how to turn the liquid iodine into a Gans the right way. So. But I'm not ready to do that at the moment. But yeah, what's the best way to do that?
one thing that came to mind recently, a couple of days ago, regarding that, the iodine Gans idea, is what if we used, instead of sea salt, iodized salt, NaCl with iodine in it, and created the Gans with that.
I already did that.
What about
I couldn't find any of it. I had made
Hi, Mario.
answers and
Kid Brown, yeah,
well, I was in China. I think I was in Thailand. I couldn't speak. What? Oh, anyway, I didn't know I was using iodized salt, and I kept all those Ganses separate. But I was drinking that water until when I realized that was iodized salt. Somebody came along. I was looking for the sea salt later when I ran out of that. Those 600 milliliters that the lady dumped on it was all iodized salt.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, there is a school of thought that maybe that is the best way to go, in the sense that you have a pure NaCl environment, so everything's either going to be sodium or chlorine, and you know that you don't have other things like magnesium and all the trace elements of seawater and all the other possible entities that might be in seawater as well, in salt in general, which is not usually it's not usually purified like NaCl is, the table salt that's iodized. And I wonder if it might be a more pure way to make Gans in a way. What were your results, Mario? Did you have any negative results with using the NaCl, the plain salt?
I've had no. I just the simple answer no. I had experiences that blew me away. I've talked about some of them. You know, the mosquitoes business happened then. But I'm still alive. I feel great. And I was thinking about if I can find iodized salt, I put the iodine on the container and use the iodized salt as the water solution for that Gans as well. But trying to get the fields in there. And you know, the CO2 is okay. I've been drinking that since April. So it definitely doesn't kill you. And like I said, I feel great. And I've taken it to rubbing my. I basically take a napkin and I pour CO2 water on it and I rub it on my skin. And on my arm now, where I had that cancer thing, or I don't know if it's cancer or not, but it's still there. But I add a drop or two of CUO and on the tissue with the CO2. And I'm rubbing that on my arms, only on my arms there. But man, I rub my face, my skin. It's like unbelievable. I mean, it's a really amazing thing.
Hmm.
So I'm, you know, the salt thing, the iodized salt in the water solution. Wow, I didn't know it was happening. So, but like I said, I'm still here.
Mario, I found a place where you can get iodine. I just happened to run across it tonight from a recording I saw on YouTube about dried foods. It's called Numana, Numanna, I believe is the name of it. .com.
Okay,
Got,
well, I'm
got,
having a problem. I'm having a different problem. I found it on eBay, but for some reason I'm not able to pay for it. I just ordered on eBay some graphite rods and some other double-sided plastic cups I can't find in China. They make them here and they ship them out. They don't sell them in the stores. It's ridiculous.
Hi, Mario. Hi, Mario.
Yeah, hey, Mark.
Hey, from my understanding, when you're in China, you should probably be able to get ground.
Yeah, you can get everything. You can get everything in there. But
Yeah.
I'm having trouble paying for it. It was not accepting the payment card that I used a week ago, less than a week ago.
You probably should be able to go to the market and get brown seaweed. Brown seaweed is one of the highest concentrations of iodine known.
Oh, that's good to know. The thing is, I go to the market, everything's marked in Chinese. I need a Keshe Foundation, somebody who knows. I do need a Chinese person to order on Taobao instead of eBay. It would make my life way easier because you get a next day delivery. But I'm just having some delay problems, and I'm trying to make a reactor that I'll show you later, but I've got to wait. But I would like to see this, if that's okay. Unless somebody has any questions or comment. What you got on the screen there is amazing. I see flower of life everywhere, you know, to me. I see drawings I've made.
What do you see in this drawing? And it's not a drawing, this picture.
Well, right at the center, right about where that light is, looks like where the fields are actually emanating from.
Or intersecting at. It's hard to tell whether it's emanating or intersecting there.
Yeah, but I think because they're intersecting there, it's creating a portal. And the portal, they create the portal, but in turn, the portal creates them, sort of thing, you know? And the fields are extending way out beyond the container, but they're getting cut off by the container.
Mm-hmm.
May I say something?
Yes.
You were looking at that that particular picture right there. That would be the center of our Earth, and that would be the core. That's how our magnetical and gravitational fields work. One giving, one receiving. See, there's more on the one side than the other. And it all
yes, but what you really have here is a northern and a southern hemisphere.
Yeah, it comes in from the bottom and explodes to the top.
Ah, yes, that's there's the axis. There's the in and the out.
Well, wouldn't that be our southern pole and our northern pole?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
except we see it as this is the flat Earth version.
Well,
yes, it's hard to say whether it's coming vertically in and out or at some other angle too. It's hard to tell the axis.
we're just,
Well,
there's,
Don't look only at the matter which spins around, but think about which fields in which direction can create them, which are quite
Yeah.
perpendicular to that surface.
Right.
Yeah, if you had something that could actually see everything that's there, you've probably got a big circle coming up from the container too.
You have a full sphere.
well, this, it would just be another headline in the newspaper.
Yeah, I see now. Zoltan left the meeting, so he's a Reformat Calvinist priest, and he has sometimes duties. So people call him for a funerary or from other services. So sometimes he has to leave. And anyway, he understands the written English, but he cannot speak English. He has to take some language courses. So that's why he asked me to transfer the information. He used the gas mixture, which he used as a soup for coating the Maglev coils for the Maglev units which he manufactures for himself. So such a homemade Maglevs. And he has an operating Maglev unit on the fridge, which is 3 meter distance away from this. This is in a kitchen about the size of 3 by 5 meters. And he just wished to make the coating for some new coils. And he was looking what happens there. Did he stir accidentally the liquid when he touched it? No, because this spinning continued for several minutes. And I asked to clarify what's inside. So he said there is a mixture of the CH3, CO2, CuO2, so the 3 basic gases, and also have some drops of lead gas and neodymium gas. So he made the gas also from a piece of lead and from a piece of neodymium magnet, and he just added a few drops of that. And maybe there are some traces of gold gas and silver gas also. And also it has some sugar, little sugar, and a few drops of sodium hydroxide, as it is required in the recipe for this soup. So Rick had a very good view at the beginning of our meeting, so before it started to broadcast on live stream. So he asked whether are there some heavy metals, some more gravitational? Yes, they are. So finally, Rick guessed very well what can make that. So yes, there is a very little quantity of lead gas and neodymium as well.
But there's no fields in the immediate. There's nothing underneath that would create these
it's
vortex.
A wooden table. It's a wooden desk.
Mm-hmm.
And it has just a vinyl cover.
Now have a look at this. This is I just noticed the time on this picture. This is the before picture. You can see the camera reflection in the water, but you can see that it's more or less a homogeneous mixture, let's say, with a little bit of density in the center maybe, but I don't see any spirals really forming at that point. You see the time, 11:37 a.m.?
Yes.
We go back to the other, whoops, I don't know if I showed that on the, I don't know if that came through. Let me share differently if I share my desktop.
I could share my...
There. Okay, so you should be able to see it there. There's the 11:37 picture, and so, more or less homogeneous mixture. The dots are pretty evenly spaced and no particular pattern, really. I mean, you might be able to read things into it, but compared to this...
At the beginning, he observed some motion inside, some movement inside.
Well, there must be to be able to get to this point at 9 minutes later. Or what was the other time? 37:46. Yeah, 9 minutes later, right? This is, I'll just get it on the live stream. It's at 11:46 a.m. 9 minutes later, this is what we see. So, and then I see there's another one here, 11:57, which is 10 minutes later. Whoa, okay. That's quite a bit different too. Because now the right hand that was the Earth's entry or whatever there, the pole. Now the other one is more pronounced compared to, let's just go back to the previous one there.
Unfortunately, he had no camera to take a video.
Right, boy, that'd be a great video. We definitely could use that. Whoa, to change from that to this in that time period is quite amazing. That's another, what was the time? The time is 11:57 on this one. So that's about another 10 minutes later from the previous one. Interesting.
Maybe the difference between the two is the the flash of the camera, inducing light to the mixture.
Well, there's an interesting perspective that I hadn't even considered. Yeah, that may very well be because of the combination, especially with the lead and the aluminum and so on. You throw the oxides in, you could very well have light-sensitive elements in there.
How far away is it from the MagRav unit that he's got hooked up?
3 meters.
So does he walk between them while this is happening?
No, he didn't, because he would steer it up if he would move it.
No, I mean him himself. Does he walk in between where the MagRav unit is?
Yes, of course, because I know his place, so he has just maybe I can annotate here.
What I'm thinking is that this structure is making a connection with the MagRav unit. And so there should be,
yes, of course,
there should be a central core forming somewhere in between these two. And if he's walking himself in between back and forth, he's obstructing the fields, collapsing some fields.
Okay, well, let me interject something here. I see in another chat that Mr. Keshe is saying that this is a dangerous mixture, this idea of a GAN's soup using lead in it. He says lead's never to be used, especially in a soup, if I understand correctly. He wants it to be presented in the Thursday teaching, and maybe we can discuss it. Jamie says lead can be used if handled properly, but not in emulsion reactors. Mr. Keshe says not in a soup. And Jamie says, I have lead in my soup mixture from, we keep calling it soup mixture. It's not a good idea to use the word soup to start with, I don't think, because it indicates something you might eat to start with. Jamie says, I have lead in my soup mixture from last year, 2015. Mr. Keshe says, not a good idea. And Jamie says, thank you, and so on here. So there's more to this soup than meets the eye, and that we might be in a dangerous situation. Like you were just mentioning about the idea of walking between this and the MagRav unit, for example. Well, it definitely could alter this, what we see, just from the walking in between it, because the human body transfers fields so easily. That's what it's best at, actually. If you want to measure electromagnetic fields, just measure a human, because we absorb the fields, and we basically are like walking radio antennas. And you can literally, you touch an AM antenna on an AM radio. You ever noticed how the volume increases? The same with FM, actually. And it's because
you're adding capacitance to the antenna.
That's right, and not just capacitance either. We are capacitors, resistors, transistors, and transceivers, all built into the same body, and all these things are going on at the same time, especially with the plasmatic, in the plasmatic way. So when we come in between, directly in between the MagRav unit and something like this, the GAN soup, especially with lead involved, then it could be that the fields might interact with us in a way that's not to our advantage. Although it's beautiful to look at, like many things in nature that are beautiful to look at, they may be on the dangerous side in terms of the ultimate result.
What would be dangerous about lead? Because lead is just the half-life of U-235, if I remember correctly.
Well, there you go. Nothing to it. And what could be dangerous with lead, in spite of it leading to brain and learning disabilities in young people and so on and so forth. And here we have it magnified thousands of times in a GAN's plasma environment. So definitely the lead is something to be handled very gingerly, not handled at all with most people, and it should be in a lab type situation.
Time being, all those reported that they work with lead GANs, they reported a feeling that they felt that the lead GANs is drawing out their energy.
Yep.
It was one of the product innovation.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. Douglas.
That he was not able to touch with his right hand, with the giver hand, was not able to touch the plastic container which had the lead. He had to hold it with the left hand to take it out far away from the lead.
Yes, and then he put the lead way at the back end of his shop to get it away from everything. And he said every time he walked by it, it would still affect his hand even as he walked by it. And, other people are reporting this sensation of, well, heaviness. It's lead after all, but heaviness, just, your energy is drained, it's pulling, it's absorbing, it's not something to be trifled with. And this has come up a number of times.
It only has that kind of an effect on some people. It may not affect everyone that way.
Well, it also depends.
Some people are stronger, some are weaker. It depends on the balance. It doesn't make good for anybody.
It depends on the environment and so on.
It's not making good. Maybe for one from other planet, it's not a problem.
And it's not lead so much the element either.
Sorry, you understand there is somebody who can bear to take a luggage of 15 kilograms only. And somebody can take 50 kilograms. And now you put 30 kilograms on those, one is crashed, and for the other it's quite easy.
Yeah, and some people are on the edge in terms of their balance, in terms of the heavy metals especially, and a little bit more puts them over the edge. And also you have to look at is not so much the heavy metal itself, the metal lead, which, I mean, there's lead battery terminals and that kind of thing, and you can touch them, and you're probably not going to get a headache or any kind of association of lead poisoning. But if you take a little bit of that lead and dissolve it as an ion in water or make it otherwise available internally, it can wreak havoc. So it's definitely something that to be concerned about in terms of making it even more powerful as a GANs type material. So anyway, let's look forward to trying to bring this up in the Thursday workshop. I think Mr. Keshe will encourage that, and we can get some more clear information about the ins and outs of how to handle this type of material. I think it's important that people know about it, because a lot of people have already experimented with it and will likely continue to. It's enticing, it's easily available, and in some experiments it's what we should be experimenting with, probably.
By the way, I'd like to share with you some good news from here, from Hungary, about application of the new plasma technology and application of GANs. You see, it's an application which has very serious implications in economy. We have here a farmer who is growing turkeys, and he has about 5,000, 4,000, 5,000, or up to 8,000 turkeys at once. He's growing them for meat, for the meat industry. And time being, he had to spend about $30,000 every month just for the medicine, for the antibiotics to keep the turkeys alive, because they got sick of mycoplasmosis. And the reason of mycoplasmosis, it's controversial, because who knows what they spray upon us. And anyway, he had to spend a lot of money every month for antibiotics, the price of a nice brand new car. And he learned from our knowledge seekers, Hungarian language meetings about GANs, and he was encouraged by somebody who spent some time on him how to produce GANs, and he now uses 30 milliliters, just a little cup, a little glass, a small glass like a shot glass of GANs, of CO2 for 1,000 liters of water, which he used the water to feed the turkeys. And now it's confirmed since several months, he doesn't spend anything on antibiotics. He doesn't give antibiotics anymore to the turkeys. And the little turkeys which are growing up are all healthy. They don't get ill. So he's saving every month the cost equivalent to the cost of a brand new car. And in the same time, he produces a more healthy meat without antibiotics. So this has huge implications.
That's a fantastic message. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, so it's a very good news for the farmers and a very bad news for those who are selling antibiotics.
Yeah, Big Pharma doesn't like that.
Yeah, but understand, 30 milliliters only. A small glass of GANs for a big barrel of 1,000 liters of water. Only a very small quantity. And the technology can be improved by using only not the GANs, but the fields of the GANs, using a stirrer to activate it and so on. So this is a very interesting field of research. Also in agriculture, you know about the McDonald family from Australia who are doing aquaponics, and they use a small bottle of gas for 20,000 liters of water, which is circulating water, and the plants, the lettuces or salad or whatever they are growing there, they grow healthier and resist better to extreme heat just by using a little gas. And this has huge implications. You see, you get 2 hot days and you lose all the crop, and that month you are not earning anything. But if you use the GANs, you can produce conditions in which the roots will develop better, and the leaves will stay more fresh in spite of the hot weather. And the applications are not limited to this one. Meanwhile, I am shocked when you see people educated in putting pieces of puzzle together. I had yesterday in the Hungarian group somebody, okay, and when he saw this demonstration for the spinning liquid spinning due to the fields of the GANs only, he said, okay, that's interesting, but what it is good for, what we can use it. There is no education. Or okay, I'm making some copper GANs, but what it is good for. Meanwhile, he was trying to make some GANs, some maglev unit, and he still doesn't understand what is good for to have some copper GANs, for instance. That's why we have to learn how to think freely, to observe and to think about and to be inventive and creative, and not just to use recipes given in a book. Okay, 3 eggs, 200 grams of butter, 400 grams of flour, 300 grams of sugar, and so on.
You hit the nail on the head, Sandor. It's a case of we don't have enough, we want to say, free or abstract thinkers on the planet that are experimenters with things.
Well, that's what I'm up to, that's for sure. I'm going to, I've been looking at how to create a nice clear
Show us your
structure.
picture. We can't see it. You're not full screen.
Not?
No.
No, you haven't had your screen up for a while.
Actually, we're looking at your screen. You're looking at the screen too.
There we go. I have to have the other, I had it on live stream, but not on the Zoom. There
That's
we go.
okay, you're live.
Eh? Say what?
What's the beauty, Rick? New style of liquid plasma reactor?
Yeah, that's the idea. So,
I see beautiful champagne, champagne.
well, yeah, these are actually, I think, margarita glasses. I've got other ones that are champagne, or I think these are
Yeah,
Are they made of glass
those
glass?
look like margarita.
champagne, or what do you call it? Other cocktails, anyways.
Martini glass.
Martini. That's it. Probably a little big for that, but anyways, these can be used. I'm going to end up putting these together and creating a double cone shape like this, actually, that I'm really interested in, and winding the nano-coated copper wires over this in a double cone shape, in a way to I can glue these together and actually create a bit of a vacuum inside, or put water and plasma vapor in, is the idea, to be able to experiment with that as the perfect shape to keep a plasma inside, especially with the little electrical help and so on, maybe some rotational help. That's another project. But right now I'm focusing on this one, which I've been trying to come up with different configurations of this. I love this this margarita glass because of this shape, which I think is really cool. It just has a nice, almost saucer kind of shape to it somehow. So I figured, rather than this orientation, I'd like to go with this orientation. Although this is tempting, because what I wanted to do, part of this whole thing, is to put gases or ganses inside the ping pong ball, but have it so it's not rigidly confined. So what I've done is I put some water in. These cups are all upside down, so I just put water in the top part in here. And when that happens, the ping pong ball floats in there. It's able to freely move around any which way it wants. So I figure if I have prepared ping pong balls with GANs rings already built into them from rotation, or with just the right gases or ganses that I'm experimenting with in them, then it's set on this water platform inside, so it's able to float and go to any position that it feels like. And now that gives me an option of filling the space in between the ball and the plastic here with more fluid or less, to raise or lower the height of the ping pong ball to make it exactly where I want, and different mixtures and so on. It also gives me a nice platform here to have coils sitting. I can have my 3 coils on each level, hook them all together, and that way the ping pong ball is suspended right in the center of the coils and moves to whatever position it feels like. It's actually a very good indicator of any field interactions. If the ball moves up or down in the fluid, or starts to rotate or moves around a bit, that will be the indicator. The second indicator is these particular ping pong balls. I'm not sure if it would be shown right now. Let me try and see. But these particular ones are glow in the dark. So you put a strong light up to them. I haven't done that yet, but I can't because my monitors show everything. Yeah, it's too hard to see without total darkness. But trust me, they do glow in the dark. So if there's any fields that are being emitted, the idea would be perhaps these balls, which get charged up from light, would also get charged up from fields that are being emitted from the device. And they're right in the center line and of the vortical flow going on. it might be an indicator, another indicator of some kind of field action, to see the ping pong balls light up, or maybe only the center one will, or the top or bottom. It might be a way
Photonic
of...
light reactor.
Pardon me?
I said photonic light reactor.
Right, exactly. And especially with the right coating on the inside of the ping pong ball, or the outside, depending, or both, it might be enough in just itself. What if it had inside had a nano-coated gold coating, for example, and on the outside maybe copper, because I can do that with the plastic. It can be coated with a flash coating of gold or copper, and then nano coated from a little bit of exposure to the NaOH and so on. So there's different things that could be done just with this very simple apparatus that I've thrown together with, these are cheapo glasses from my big box store I've mentioned before, but I won't call the name. And you can buy them for less than $2 each now on sale. Now I must specify that for experiments, especially for rotation, these kinds of glasses have two different types. The one, or actually there's three now available. The one type is like this. They're acrylic, they're cheap, made in China, and this is actually made in Taiwan, but they're cheap. They're quite strong. They're better than glass that way, but they will shatter. You try to, I can saw it, and it might crack for the last bit instead of sawing properly, and so on. So it's brittle. It tends to shatter with acrylic, but you can get these same glasses in polycarbonate, and then you have something that's virtually indestructible. You can drop them and step on them and almost run over them, and they'll pop back into shape and maintain their shape. So they're better. The polycarbonate are much better for spinning or for more heavy-duty experiments. For this one, light-duty spinning, and for this kind of setup, just to check it out. The polycarbonate ones are probably about 3 or 4 times the price generally, so for cheapness and just to get started, the acrylic will do, and especially if it's a stationary setup, then no problem.
The way to separate those acrylic bases would be to use something like a hot wire, rather than try to saw them. A hot wire will cut right
That's
through
true.
the acrylic.
Yes, a hot wire would work better. Yeah, and it does cut fairly readily. It's just you have to be careful drilling and so on. If the drill catches it, so it tends to shatter or break rather than drill through and just bend like polycarbonate will.
Well, if you need to make a hole in something like that, what you do is you heat up a small, like a pencil, like a 25-watt soldering iron. And
that's exactly what I was going to do with my ping pong balls. Actually, heat up a soldering iron with a little pointy tip, and then I was going to just go through the ping pong ball with the hot chisel tip of the soldering iron, just put a hole in there, okay? And then the next step for me is I've got these little septaseals, they're called, and I've used these before, and I was going to glue a septaseal onto the ping pong ball, and then I've actually got... Oh, there it is. I've actually got one that I've done that before, but with it's got the whole deal here. It's made to glue onto a fan or some other spinning motor thing, and inside here you can see that green septaseal. Septaseal, you can take a needle, for example, and stick it in there through the septaseal and inject or pull out contents, and then pull the needle out, and this septaseal is self-sealing. It'll keep a perfect vacuum in there if you create a vacuum, for example.
Yeah, I see what you mean. The only problem with using that, it might change the rotation in a way that you
because
won't want it.
there's other
I'm not.
matter level things involved and so on. Yes, that is a bit of a risk there, but it's just having this simple little green thing glued onto the bottle or onto the ping pong ball, and then that gives me an opportunity to be able to use a needle to change the contents of the ball. And it could actually be, while it's still sitting inside there, okay, that I'd be able to access it through an access hole here, go through with the needle and remove or replace contents as I wish. Also, these septa seals, when it's properly set up, can actually take a needle and you stick it through, and you can rotate the ball with the needle in there and rotate at quite a speed and be able to still alter the contents on the fly as such.
Can you
Hopefully on
provide
the
a
fly.
vacuum while it's spinning also?
Pardon me?
Does the vacuum maintain while it is
Yes.
spinning?
Yes, that's right. I've got a setup here that I've done that with in my past life last year when I was working on this stuff, which is right here. I've got 3 ping pong balls, one in the back there, and this is a lab flask here, and they're all on bearings inside this bearing block area. And basically this ping pong ball here can be spun up to 10,000 RPM if I want to, depending on how it's set up and so on. And I've got, it's actually got a vacuum connection here that goes up into the, I can have a vacuum tube with a needle stuck into this setup because there's a septa seal inside of here now. Inside this brass fitting that goes down into where the ping pong ball is. So, and I can use a long needle in this case to actually get down to the contents there if I wish to, or I can just vacuum the vapors off the top depending on how the different setups and so on. So that's kind of a fun, it's a very versatile apparatus. It's all powered right now by a Singer sewing machine motor, and I can get all of these 4 spheres all rotating at the same time with one belt. I don't have that right now. It's an O-ring belt, and I have to get another one of the correct size, but basically one O-ring can power all these at the same time, and I've got a video on my Mr. Fix-It Rick site that shows that all running at once at some point. Anyways, got a little distracted there, but that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I wanted to be able to get rotation on these GANS balls preferably without coils and so on. I'd like to be able to do it in using a liquid and vapor type environment, and I'm hoping to achieve that with again, I'm encouraged by some of the results I'm seeing by others and so on too that way. So perhaps something so simple might be able to pull it off.
I have a suggestion again, Rick. I didn't mean to jump over you here, but I know you're in love with turning that upside down, but don't forget that you have a high potency having it sitting right side up.
Well, it's actually a perfect spot for putting the ball in that way, if that's what you mean, or...
Yeah, so then when you put the next one on top, you'll probably have to cut the
like if I put water in it, then it's at the perfect height for putting a coil inside. It'd be right centered in the middle of the coil, basically.
When you put the next one on top, maybe the bottom will seal, but I don't know exactly how that...
Well, what happens is the ball would be pushed down by having another one in there, or I'd have to have just a little bit of water on the bottom, and it just gets a little more complicated. Like this one, it's just cut off. It pushes in too far, so I have to cut that little bit off the bottom, and even then it'll push the ball pretty much to the bottom. if these are sitting on each other.
Yeah, you may have to.
So that's why I went to plan B, and I ended up. I went to.
Have to cut it higher up.
Oops. I went to plan B, and this actually had a long stem on it originally, same as this one here. But I chopped. This is a chopped and channeled version. I cut off the stem and just joined it directly on with some acrylic glue, and it's as strong as the original, stronger actually. And now this can actually sit. I can, for example, I can have the ball in here. I can put this on top, and I've got this one now. I put a little bit of water in there, put another ball, oops, to show you. So I got this one right side up. This is my shortened version. Push that down. And then I can have another shortened version. Whoops, this one here, I was making a heck of a mess here. So now I've got 3, one more ball in there, it makes 4, built that up. And now if I have my coils in there, it makes a pretty nice unit actually. It just doesn't look as cool. It doesn't have the cap on it. I can put this cap on, and then it's kind of cool, but it's just doesn't look right. And so that's why one reason I reversed it. It actually is a little different, but somehow the way it works, I liked it the other way. Pardon me?
That outside ring, although it's open to the air, can hold liquid plasma as well.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And you could have 2 different types here. In fact, there's the one inside here, and then you could have different plasma around that environment. So you could have 3 or 4 layers with this. And here's the other.
Inside an acrylic tube that you had.
Well, this is. Thanks for bringing that up. That's exactly what I was going to bring up. I've got this. This is actually polycarbonate. This long polycarbonate tube, which I have in the past filled with water and put a magnetic drive Tesla turbine series of discs inside of here, made out of CD discs and magnets, and a rotating magnetic drive underneath here to rotate this, and it creates a giant vortex inside very rapidly, like instantly. And that mechanism's kind of apart right now. I'd like to put it back together, and then I can take this whole thing, if you can imagine, this whole thing that's ready to go, if it's relatively enclosed, maybe complete with coils and the whole works, or with its different materials, and the whole works can go inside, plop it in there, and create a vortex. So this whole thing can rotate again in its own, where it wants to center, where it wants to be, up and down in the vortex. You can control it according to the power of the vortex, how far it is in the up and down in this tube. There could be coils around this tube which are picking up on the energy. Say what?
If you slip another tube, a larger diameter tube, over a tube, I'm just not saying you might not be using this tube. You may go find a couple other tubes that you want to repurpose. You may not want to repurpose this one because it has its value in itself. But if you fit another tube over a larger tube over this tube here, so that you have a dual wall,
right? Yeah.
Then you can fill that dual wall with the CH3 GANs and the ground up Coke.
Coke bottle caps, or necks.
Yeah, the necks, the Coke necks. So that way your structure. Anyhow, I'm just saying you'll have an extra amount of energy that'll feed when you
feeding the center that way.
Yeah, so you'd have a dual wall by having another larger diameter tube fitting over that.
Yeah. Well, there's another concept. There's also the idea of taking copper, nano-coated copper, and maybe covering the entire tube or part of it with plates and creating environment inside that way. Yeah, there's lots of, as Mr. Keshe says, there's as many types of reactors as there are stars in the universe.
Yeah, you might as well wind copper coil around.
I've got half the stars in the universe here, I swear. I got this nice little piece I couldn't resist picking up. It was pre-cut fairly cheap at the store the other day. So I thought, again, this is something that might be incorporated into creations depending on how one looks at it, basically.
You can sit that one inside the other tube as well.
Yeah.
And it'll sit there. And then you'll have to get smaller containers. But anyhow, there's a lot of ways you do things.
Yeah, there's, like I say, a million ways. It's a matter of deciding on one and sticking with it and trying to penetrate it, I think, so that we can get some meaning out of it and some, something actually working, I guess, is one way to look at it.
Now this particular glass, this acrylic glass, it fits down in that tube. How much variance do you have?
Oops. Spilled again. It's about an inch. I think it's a 5-inch glass and a 6-inch tube, I'd say. If you go with
then you could fill up the tube with a liquid plasma that would also fill around these loops.
Yes.
So that you would be filling up the inside of that tube with a liquid plasma of choice.
Yep, that would be the idea. And these could have the option of being immersed in the liquid, like totally immersed in the vortex spinning around them, or they could be just on the top of the vortex with the vortex sort of pulling at the at this bottom point here, and you can control the vortex to make this submerge or stay up on the surface, basically. So that could be.
Then you can put your aircraft coils, several of them, around the outside tube. They'd have to be designed specifically for that big long tube you have, and you would have a lot of reactors going.
Yes, exactly. And I wanted to do some work with that long tube, just in terms of creating a vortex in it with ganzas and other materials. And you'd have a gradient through the vortex. It's a long, it's as long as the tube, the vortex, and it starts out small at the bottom and is 6 inches at the top, or whatever, 4 or 5 inches at the top. So
with the glasses though in it, that your vortex won't be so much a vortex, but it will be a swirling around effect.
Yes, that's right. There'll still be a vortex at the very center bottom, pulling at it like a.
But you would still have a rotational. Your liquid inside would rotate. It would be circular. It just wouldn't be vortexed. It would move in a circle.
Well, it would move in a circle, but it would be a vortex if this tries to resist the suction of the vortex, or the vortex action of it'll actually create an air vortex underneath, a bubble, and pull it right down to the bottom. In fact, it'll pull down anything that'll fit in that 6-inch tube. In terms of a ball, like a large ball, 5-inch ball, will get sucked right down to the bottom with the vortex.
Yeah, these glasses are 5-inch. I guess you could buy some plastic balls like Armin had today. I got a bunch of them that would fit in there as well.
Yeah, and like these.
That's a good idea, and I'm not going to keep.
These fit even tighter actually into this. I can feel the wind resistance just from, it's almost like a piston in there. So that's kind of interesting as well. So perhaps my thing with the double one of these, which is part of the Utron. Anybody familiar with the Utron device, which looks exactly like this? Whoops, except it doesn't leak water. It looks like this. It's orientated something like this kind of angle, and I think there was, it's either 6 or 12 of them in the UFO that was designed by.
I think there's 12. Yeah.
What's his name again?
I can't remember him. What his name is?
Oh, geez.
Is it Emerson?
Starts with C, I think. He was one of the people that studied under Tesla, and went on to develop this UFO concept using a Utron device, a magnetic device that was positioned in the outer parts of the craft. Ralph Ring is one person. He's the one who went on one of the journeys and studied and worked with the other fellow. I can't remember who it was. Someone should remind me, but I guess no one can remember right now. In any case, this also happens.
Ralph?
Pardon me?
I was with him quite extensively.
Pardon me?
Sorry, what were you talking about, Ralph?
Ralph Ring, and who was it that he worked with that had the UFO?
Tesla's offside, wasn't I? Can't remember his name.
Yeah,
sorry?
one of Tesla apprentices.
Tesla, is that right?
Sorry?
The guy worked with Tesla?
Yeah, what was his name?
Tesla's sorry, I don't remember the fella's name. I've got it in documentation on another hard drive, but
yeah, I forget now. It's not Curtis, not Cox. Oh man, I should be able to remember that, but I couldn't remember to get the workshop started tonight, so I'm to be excused. I've been ill for a few days actually, but anyways, so the idea is that this shape actually is very special too. In terms of geometric shapes, it has, think about it, if you spin this, for example, you've got two cones, what it looks like in one dimension. I got to get rid of this water, it's causing grief. If you turn this sideways, you could see it in one dimension as it's basically a square or a cube. It looks like a square parallelogram or whatever if you look at it in 2 dimensions. And if you look at it in another dimension, it looks like a circle. So this can show a circle, a triangle, essentially 2 triangles, a parallelogram, a square, and there's some other shapes as well, because it's not only just rotating, it's rotating and revolving at the same time. So it's actually kind of going like this, and if you look at it, it has another shape. If you extend it over time, it looks different than what it looks like. So this particular geometric shape, when it's rotated, especially at certain angles and the whole thing rotated, according to Otis Carr, that was the name of the guy.
Otis Carr.
Otis Carr and Ralph Ring, and according to them, this Utron device was had special properties, let's say. Now it's interesting because we're kind of getting a bit of field here, but maybe not. Maybe it'll all tie back together. Let me just run this by you. I made this a few years ago. Okay, it's just 2 cones, same idea. It's wound with fine magnet wire insulated wire. And it's got the larger primary wire wrapped around here. I had it as an antenna for this little spooky Tesla Spirit radio I put together. And the idea is that this is very similar, actually, if you look at the pictures on the internet, of the original Tesla. It's called a football coil. If you look up Tesla football coil, you'll find a picture on the internet of something that looks very similar to this. And Tesla said that it had special properties. And the rumor has it that it had anti-gravity or lift properties with this coil. It was part of the 5 pieces that Tesla was putting together for his craft, his flying machine that had no wings and no ailerons and no airbags and no other stuff from airplanes. It had a twin 200 horsepower Tesla turbines driving some kind of electrical alternator or some sort of electrical type generator that was to generate the electricity to create the essentially plasma field around the craft. And that was Tesla's flying machine, which is a big secret. People don't even know about his flying machine. It's the greatest invention of his whole existence, and he couldn't even tell anybody about it. But anyways, I don't want to diverge too much, but this is a similar concept, this idea. If we can do it with liquids and spin it in a liquid, maybe it will be able to generate certain effects. So that's what I'm shooting for anyway.
Can I come in here, Rick? Hold that back. To me, does that look like a version of Armin's egg reactor?
A version of a what?
Armin made those egg reactors, or the pine cone reactors. You have a double coil in that shape.
That way?
You didn't tighten it up, but the inner coil, it's like the egg reactor, isn't it?
Well, it's like an egg, but it's different because it's got twin cones, and it's like, you could say a pyramid's like an egg if you had twin pyramids end to end in a way, but an egg's got its own structure. It's a different shape at one end than the other, and this is symmetrical. So that's...
I didn't mean the egg. I meant what I call Armin's the egg reactor, where he's got a vortex going out and going back in at the other side, and you have 2 of them. You know what I'm talking about? Those, I made a bunch of them and then I twisted them around. You guys made them. Pine cone reactors?
Oh, okay, yeah, with just the copper wire, basically.
Yeah, you've got, yes, different metal, and you didn't match the same number of turns in that case. But if you did that, if you just had like, however many turns on each coil, you got a double coil vortex egg reactor.
Yeah, and this could be nano-coated as well. This is normally magnet wire, so it's supposed to be insulated from each other. But you can think about it, if I used regular wire, very thin wire, kept them all close together, in fact, make them actually touch, that'll be okay, but not jam together, just touching, and then nano-coat the whole thing. The nano-coating of the wire will do the same effect, basically, as insulating the wire and forming something that's similar in terms of tuning of this, but because it's nano-coated at the same time, you've got the plasmatic environment already built in to the device, which is, I think, that's something that Tesla and others would have loved to play with in the early days, is to have that a plasmatic environment over this, rather than trying to make the plasma with the electrons, which with the heavy metal, with the metal copper trying to create the fields through the windings and so on. Whereas it should be more of a plasmatic thing. It's a complete unit plasma rather than counting the individual wires as a antenna, for example. They would normally, how many windings and the capacitance and all that. It'll have a totally different capacitance and inductance and resistivity using nano-coated wire, but it may be very, very interesting, the effect.
You got a double coil. You got a magnetical and a gravitational.
Right, and it could be that it just switches back and forth, magnetic, gravitational, boom, 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 boom.
The inner coil wire is the gravitational, and then you've got like 5 turns or however many, 5 turns. That's the magnetical. It's a double coil. It's the first time I've ever seen Tesla use anything like that.
Well, his Tesla coils are more like this, where you have a series of fine wire going up a tube usually, and at the base he'll have his primary, which is a very big heavy wire. He used like big copper for his larger experiments, and only 1 or 2 winds sometimes for the primary, but the secondary is very fine winding, so you can put 10 or 100 volts in the primary, and it magnifies by thousands of times, up to 250,000 volts coming out the top from the inductance. So that's, and of course it's all tuned with the Tesla coil, and you have a spark gap in between here basically that ends up charging and discharging the primary coils, which induces the field into the secondary, and you get sparks coming out the top and other special effects that Tesla wasn't actually after the sparks. He was after the other special effects. It's just the sparks were a byproduct that were good for publicity. And then everybody now, they make a Tesla coil just for the sparks. You don't know what else to do with it, most people.
So what do you have there in your martini glasses that you're making this double cone with? Are you going to be putting a ball inside of that?
Well, I've got so many ways to go on this, I'm not clear, but I know I can glue these together, for example, and then I could either cut off one end, or I was thinking I would get rid of these bottom things, put a bearing on here, and put a bearing over on the other side over here, and then I can spin this in between. So it'd be interesting to be able to spin it at different angles, for example, and watch the fluids, how they move inside with different densities of ganses, different types of ganses inside, and creating different cores and different orientations, and observing. That would be one way to do it. Doing the same thing
you should put
with the ping pong ball in there. Say what again? Sorry?
I think that's what you should do. You should put your ball in there filled with GANs, and also fill your cones with a liquid GANs that you like.
Well, that's right. It's an interesting proposition, because what would happen is, if it's, say, half filled with liquid, the ball will sit in the middle and sort of bounce around as the liquid starts rotating. But once it gets up to a certain RPM, the liquid will be all over the place, all jammed into this center ring area. And where will the ball be? Will it be just bouncing around in there? Or will it be held centered somehow in the center of all the fields involved in this? And with just the right amount of...
I think it would be held in the center, going around with the fluid that's in there.
Probably it would depend on how much fluid's in there, I guess. If there's only a little bit, then the ball's going to kind of jump around as it catches and so on. And if there's a lot, if there's too much, then it'll have to wait until it'll probably be centered, but maybe it'll be out at the edge.
Yeah, you might as well put your coils on it.
I think it's like one of those centrifuges. I've been in one of those before when I was a kid, and you know, it's almost impossible to you know, lift off from the wall of the centrifuge once it gets going to a fast enough speed.
Right, but if it was a ball, the ball would have to lift off because it has buoyancy. It's going to have a lot less weight than the water, so it's going to want to go to the center as much as possible, but it weighs more than the air in the center, so it'll kind of oscillate, I figure, unless there's very little space for it. If there's only a small tube of air in the middle, it'll probably stay centered. I don't know. I think it'd be quite interesting to have a look at that.
I think it's speed dependent. Once you get to a certain speed, I think you're right. That it'll force it somewhere and hold it there until you change the speed.
Yep. So all in all, just a couple of years for $4. It's a pretty cool apparatus. It has so many different ways to orientate it, to work with it. I can rotate it this way or that way, or not rotate it, just have it as a stationary reactor. Either way, it's a nice enclosed space to be able to work with. It could stand a partial vacuum, probably not a full vacuum with this acrylic. The polycarbonate certainly could take a full vacuum, and that would be a very interesting environment, I think. I really believe in the idea of creating a vacuum environment with some of these materials. I don't think we've experimented enough with that, if at all, in terms of a vacuum environment's just a totally different space than the air here. And if you have something that has field interactions that are very close to it, those fields might be dissipated by the action of the air around us. But where if you have it in a vacuum, on the other hand, the fields expand out and they're able to interact more easily. Even in terms of particles or electron, which we consider a particle, for example, normally can only travel a very short distance in air, and it loses its energy. It hits other particles, and dissipates. You might say that the electron is not a particle, which I believe for many years it's not, and it's merely magnetic gravitational fields, in which case it's a field interaction between the electron and its environment. And in any case, in a vacuum, the electron is able to move, maybe, depending on the condition of the vacuum, anywhere from a centimeter or two up to meters. So it's a whole different environment for what are normal particles, such as electrons or other entities, even just air particles and so on. Creating that vacuum environment creates what I call elbow room. Gives it the entities room to move around, room to interact with the fields that are around. Whereas they're all jammed together, there's not much field interaction because there's no room to move. You're always bumping into others, so you can't really, jive on the dance floor when there's no elbow room. You got to make elbow room to, spread your wings and allow the energies to flow. So I think that opening up the plasma might be more easily accomplished using a vacuum, or partial vacuum, I should say. A full vacuum may not be required at all. And of course, we use the water as an environment to create the vacuum in a way, because when you're inside the water, the liquid plasma environment, then it's like being in a vacuum. There's a certain kind of pressure, but it's the same as inside of our body, as Mr. Keshe said. It's basically a vacuum, and it's hard to believe, but
it'll be interesting to see if you fill that with liquid GANs whether you get a hollow center for the vacuum, you get a hollow center in the basic in the double vortex that's going around, and whether it would give an empty spot right in the center of that particular device when you're spinning it, if you fill it with liquid.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to completely fill it. I like the idea of completely filling some of these rotating environments and leaving no air gap at all, and then rotating them at a speed which starts to induce the plasma vapor in the inside. You're getting the vapor actually of whatever liquid is inside, and since there's no air, then you're either pulling air out of the liquid, which is possible, and that's probably true in some cases, but you're also pulling the vapor of the liquid as well as the actual air inside the liquid. The liquid could be de-aerated first, in other words, pull the oxygen and air out of the liquid before putting it in here, and that would help keep the air from coming out under the high rotating condition. But either way, the center, when this is rotating, the center will always have the least pressure. It will be wanting to create that voidness in the center.
So there might be a bubble.
Yes, there might be a bubble, and if there's no bubble to start with, if it's completely sealed, most people have a little air bubble, and what happens when this gets rotating at high speed, that air bubble will actually start expanding because it gets pulled. Well, there's less pressure, so it expands out, and you'll see it start as a little bubble, and it can actually will get longer. The bubble will get longer according to the RPM, directly related to the RPM. You double the RPM, the bubble will get twice as long. 4 times the RPM, the bubble will get 4 times as long. But it's just part of that phenomenon. But it's a vapor bubble if you don't have any air in there to start with. It has to actually rely on just the vapor pressure of the liquid involved. So it would be mostly water vapor, pure water vapor, H2O vapor, little particles of H2O, rather than any oxygen, nitrogen, and argon or whatever that's the trace elements in our atmosphere air. But like I was saying, there could be air that's in the actual liquid.
Linear on the RPM?
Sorry, say that again?
I said, are you sure that the progression would be linear on the RPM?
Yes, I've seen some science experiments on it, and I've done it myself with my other apparatus back here, the spinning.
I was thinking instead of doubling the speed, it might end up 16 times as long or something like that.
Yeah, you would think so, but it's very much proportional to the speed. Apparently, that's what I've seen anyway. If you have a 1-inch bubble at 1,000 RPM with this, I turn it up to 2,000 RPM, and generally it'll be, it's somewhat dependent on the shape and what angle you have it on and so on. But generally, if you have the same setup, it'll tend to elongate the bubble longer by that much. And it's interesting because I'm able to rotate this entire apparatus while it's operating. So I'm able to watch it while it's the same bubble, while it's horizontal or vertical or whatever different orientation, which could be handy in the near future. I'm thinking that some of our experiments might be even sensitive to the gravitational field of the Earth. And if that's true, then maybe they have to be tuned to just the right angle to catch the lines of the magnetic field of the Earth, which are never normal to the Earth, except at the north and south poles. Pardon me?
Are you talking about the ley lines?
No, I'm talking about the magnetic field of the Earth, what we see with a compass, basically. Right, the magnetic field lines of the Earth, which go, north and south, and generally they wrap around the Earth, in this sort of fashion, and they're parallel at the equator. That means you can take the compass and it points straight that way and straight that way to the north and to the south. But if you're at the top of the North Pole and you got your compass goes crazy because it wants to measure the South Pole straight down. Okay, but if you're in between like I am, then it's actually aiming at somewhere around 40 degrees or something down. I forget the exact inclination at this particular point, but everywhere on the Earth the magnetic field will be pointing into or coming out of the Earth at an angle. You'll never find it directly down, or very seldom even directly level. We hold the compass level, but the compass actually wants to be orientated at an angle one way or another. Generally, if you're beyond the hemisphere of the Earth, somewhere north or south, it'll tend to orientate into the Earth rather than just parallel to the Earth.
By the way, on that thought you had about Tesla's saucer, there's an article on it on the website called thelivingmoon.com.
The Living Moon?
The Living Moon.
Living Moon, okay.
livingmoon.com /41 Pegasus /02 file /Tesla saucer.
Okay. That could be the maybe the Otis Carr saucer. I'm not sure. I'd have to check into that.
He built that. I think he built that in 1919, and he did some experiments on an automobile where he turned off and turned on the ignition on a car 3 miles away. That was another experiment that he did with energy.
Yeah, I actually ran a car from a distance using a powered, used two 12-volt batteries, and he was able to drive it all day long through transmitted power, apparently. And he went to the newsman at the end of the day. He took him for a run all around town, Boston, I think it was. Took him for a run around town. And he says, "What do you think of my great new invention?" And the newsman said, "Well, no big deal. We already have gasoline engines all over the place. Why would we want electric now?" So sometimes you can't win, I guess. Tesla kind of gave up on a lot of things after that, apparently. Okay, so I don't want to hog the scene here.
Well,
what else have we got to?
You gotta hog the scene.
No, what else have we got to show and tell here? Anybody?
You gotta tell us about your acrylic glue that's gonna glue those two together.
Okay, yes. Actually, that's exciting for me. Acrylic glue. How could acrylic glue be exciting? Well, what I've discovered just recently is this acrylic glue. And sure enough, it's acrylic glue. And what's really great and exciting about this acrylic glue, which, normally I'm not much of a glue head, let's say, and this is not something that a glue head would want to be inhaling. I tell you, it's really about the most toxic stuff you can get. But it is very effective for gluing acrylic. And the wonderful, wonderful thing that made my heart skip about it is it can also glue polycarbonate. And that's the first time that I've known about a glue that can do both, which...
You gotta hold it still. I can't read
all right,
when you
sorry,
move
I'm
so
just
much.
all excited and
Now
so...
you gotta pull it back a little. It's 16 fast set. Is that what it's called?
Yes, let me get my magnifier here. 16 fast set clear medium-bodied solvent cement for butyrite, polycarbonate, styrene, and other plastics, and acrylics in big words. A clear, syrupy cement for high-strength joints. Easy-to-use applicator tube. good outdoor weatherability and used by professionals for years. Well, I guess I wasn't professional for years, but I am now. So there you go. It's this was available at the what is it called again? Plastics and Paints place, Universal Plastics and Paints. And that's just I think it's a Canadian outfit, but it would be available at places that deal with polycarbonate and acrylics and that kind of thing. Probably available online, but it's pretty toxic, so I don't know if they banned it yet or not. So anyways, that's what I use to glue these bottoms on here. This bottom piece here onto the top piece, basically without the stem part. So interesting.
Have you tried to drill that stem yet to see how it happens?
No, I've drilled acrylic like that before. It can be done. You have to be very careful and slow with it, and if the drill bit jams a bit, it'll just break rather than giving you a lot of warning about it. So it's definitely safety glasses stuff, and I don't ever trust acrylic. They've made, you know, windows out of acrylic and that kind of thing, but it's nothing as strong as the polycarbonate. I've seen tests. You can go on the internet. There's tests for motorcycle windscreen. Okay, so you can imagine this windscreen you use for your motorcycle. They have ones made out of acrylic, and they have ones made out of polycarbonate. So they did a test, the acrylic one here, the polycarbonate one. And first they took a baseball bat, and the guy takes a baseball bat to the acrylic one. Bang! Shatters. Alright, and takes a baseball bat to the polycarbonate one, just bounces off, doesn't even bruise it. And then they progress up to, they used a 22, I think it was. And then I think they ended up using a shotgun. But again, any kind of impact to the acrylic, it just shatters. And the polycarbonate, it just took a little, the 22 bullet bounced off, and it just used, you know, made a little crack sort of scar or whatever. And I think the shotgun blast, it all it bounced off as well, and the acrylic just completely shattered, and it was non-existent. So that's kind of the difference. That's why I don't trust acrylic. I know that it shatters easily. It looks tough, and then, you know, you can drop this and it seems good, but I do not trust it, especially if it gets a little cold. If it gets a little cold, shatter time. So be very careful with working with acrylic.
For drilling perspex, and it may be the same with acrylic, is don't use sharp drill bits. Use something that's a bit blunt, because it's the sharpness of it can just catch, you know, on one
that's
side.
A good point, and that's, so to speak.
Running crack. Yeah.
Actually, the proper way to machine that material is with a negative rake tool. So you would take your drill bits and you would grind a negative rake into the cutting lips so that it's more like a chisel rather than a cutting tool. And go slowly, use lots of coolant, and it'll drill beautifully. You'll get really nice sized holes. You can get very accurate sized holes that way.
Right, maybe something like a glass drill would work better than a regular drill bit.
Yeah, if you look at the end of a carbide, a ceramic drill or a glass drill, those, you can see what I mean by a negative rake. The cutting lip, instead of being like a plane where the angle of the cutting wants to dig into the material, it's actually the opposite direction. So it wants to actually try to snip off the material.
Right. So with metal, it's kind of self-feeding that way. It wants to pull into the metal, but you don't want that with the acrylic. You want it to just sit on the surface and sort of grind away at it rather than digging in.
That's right. And you use the same technique for stuff like brass or beryllium, lead, any of the really gummy materials that are you could actually thread your drill bit into your material if you try to drill it too fast.
Right. Good point. Thank you. Good point, so to speak. Ha ha.
20 years of tool making has to have some use.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's had some use with the Keshe technology, I'd say. It's enabled you to be in the position where you are as a. What is your official position now, anyway, John?
Lead tech support.
Tech support, right on. And yeah, so your abilities, skills and abilities that were in your past have helped you to be in that position, basically, even though it's a whole different ball game in terms of the actualities of the situation. At least that's...
Yeah, it's a little different than grinding out a plastic mold.
Yeah, but you never know when you might be grinding out a mold just for the... because it's part of a new MagRav device that you need to have a certain kind of ground out mold. Who knows?
Yep.
In any case, there are skills that get developed just as we go along.
Yeah, I always count on you, John, so I want to pat you on the back and give you a thank.
You're most welcome. That's why I'm doing it, because I love doing it.
Right on. Right on. Okay. Who else is loving doing it out there? Anybody with things to show and tell in our participants here? Any questions? I see a question from Namaria. Would a mercury GANs be similar to lead GANs? I would say yes. You'd probably want to keep away from a mercury GANs, about the same as keeping away from a lead GANs. But more seriously, there could be similarities. It's another one that we haven't really experimented with much that I know of, but it might lead to special effects if we were to do so. Again, it's even more toxic than lead, even more possible for things to go wrong, and even more dangerous. So, yeah, sounds good. Let's get into it. Oops, I didn't say that. Well, I do like danger a bit, but that kind of danger I'm trying to avoid in my life. I'm super sensitive to environmental toxins.
I think something like tungsten would be a lot safer.
Yeah, tungsten's good. I like tungsten welding rods that have thorium in them, radioactive thorium, 2.5% thorium, for example. That's fun to play with and relatively safe. And that's true. The tungsten rods, I have one here somewhere. It's in my stir stick selection somewhere, but it's a tungsten rod used for welding, for TIG welding, and that's tungsten and inert gas, and it's 97.5% tungsten and 2.5% thorium. And thorium has some very interesting characteristics, and I think that would make a really interesting electrode. Now that I think about it, I should definitely get into producing some GANs with it. Yes, well, there we go. Another adventure to think about. How about a thorium rod down the center of this into the reactor, and you can pull the rod in and out as a control rod for the reactor.
That would make a good power stick.
They have thorium reactors, that there's a design that...
showing that it looked just like the X-ray tubes that my old man used to have in his X-ray machines.
Oh, this part here?
Yeah, when you had the two of them together and you were holding it up sideways, just like the X-ray tube.
Like this?
Yep, built in the 50s. And now you're talking about sticking radioactive material in it.
Well, thorium is low-grade radioactivity, but it's also relatively harmless. I mean, welders handle it with their fingers. You can stick it in your mouth. You're not going to get contaminated as such. You wouldn't want to grind it up and eat it all day, or try to not to inhale the vapors, although that's what they do in welding. And still they approve it with 2.5% thorium, because it improves the weld and it increases the temperature and so on. It's got qualities to it that are desirable. But as a reactor core material, I mean, there are thorium reactors, the nuclear reactors. There's a design by GM. It's a Cadillac design for a thorium-powered Cadillac, all futuristic and so on, with the thorium engine that never requires fuel for the life of the vehicle. It runs on a few grams of thorium for the entire life of the vehicle. And that's the difference between our archaic and outdated oil-based energy sources and something that works on a nuclear basis. That's very much, you're talking about thousands of times the power per gram of material. So it makes it easy to power a large vehicle actually on just a few grams. You're talking about a few grams of this stuff that you can hold in your hand, right, and not get contaminated from it. And
if I remember right, the Popular Mechanics article on that came out in the 60s, wasn't it?
Well, there was an older version, then there's a newer version as well. I think if you look up thorium car, you find a few different versions of that. There's a newer one, there's a GM one, and then there's another independent car company that actually was looking at seriously developing these things. And it's an amazing concept, and I mean, you can imagine a laptop or some other device powered by a tiny thorium reactor that might be able to last for decades and not have to have recharging. So that's sort of the area that we're going into in terms of the plasma powering devices, but it's we're not necessarily dealing with radioactive units. At least we're not conceiving of that so much at this point in time. We are thinking of increased energy levels and increased energy outputs and that sort of thing, but it seems generally through the Keshe teachings we're looking at things on a micro level and a nano level. You know, the interactions occur in the layers of the nanomaterials, for example, rather than, and that creates the greater field effects that we see. And it's a bit of a different orientation than coming at it from the nuclear perspective, where you go for fission and fusion and so on. Fission, fusion, and confusion, mostly. Heavy on the con
I think
end of
there's a lot of
things.
the latter.
Pardon me?
I think there's a lot of the latter, the confusion.
Yeah, more of the con than the fusion, as we've been promised fusion since I was a kid, and that was more than 50 years ago. I remember it distinctly. Fusion will be in the future. It may be as far as 20 years in the future, but we're working on it. And then 20 years go by, and fusion will be in the future for sure. It'll be as much as 20 years in the future, but we're working on it. 20 years go by.
Remember a few years ago, the scientists that there was, what was it, 2 or 3 of them got the award for cold fusion, and what the hell did they do with their cold fusion discovery?
Well, they actually did a lot with it, and that's continuing now, and they have more results with that than anything else. And that's continuing on the side without too much fanfare, because that's where all the action is, and that's why they don't want to tell everybody about it. That's the way I understand it anyways, is yes, they do have results, and that initial testing was poo-pooed by the status quo, but now it's been validated by several other universities and so on, and it's one of those things they're working on.
What's it been, about 30 years ago that a Canadian research group came up with something you could spray on your lawn, and it would stay green and healthy, and it would only grow something like a quarter of an inch a year, something like that, and no weeds would get in it. I wonder whatever. That was 30 years ago.
I have no idea, and I don't see where that's really relevant to our discussion here, but perhaps we could go there. Let's continue.
Suppress technology.
Well,
Pardon me?
I'm gonna lead it to iodine again. I'm gonna
All
take
right.
it back to iodine.
Throw
Now,
a little.
there are such things as iodine crystals.
Right.
And buy iodine crystals, and I still wouldn't know how to make the GANs unless I'm trying to use cold caustic and do it like you would make a food GANs.
That's what I'm trying to order, was iodine crystals. They were 99% pure iodine, supposedly. Now, what I was wondering is, if I get those crystals, I put them into a container and do what? Caustic crystals. I have, caustic on there, and then put what? Cold water on that, or boiled water, or whatever. And then what? Then you just let it settle, and then have to put more distilled water, and then let it settle, and pour more distilled water, and then let it settle, pour it off, and let it settle, pour it off. Doesn't it seems, will it settle?
Don't know. I don't know yet. I thought maybe I'd probably just I would put it in a glass tube, what do you call those test tubes and plug it up, and then I would stick it in my electrolysis situation with the carbon rod and see what comes up. And I don't know if anything would come up, where there would be, the glass would just filter out any kind of field, so there would be nothing that happens. I don't know what happens to the crystal. Will it dissolve in water? I don't know. Is iodine some kind of a metal? How did it become a crystal today? What is iodine?
Good point. Let's check it out in our Wikipedia and see what it says about iodine. Iodine.
Yeah, the idea that I haven't been able to test it for non-metals, would be to place that in a container. I would think probably a thin silicon bag, something like that. Slip a nano-coated wire down into that material, so if there's any plasmatic fields that build up, it can transfer through that wire, and that would also allow you to connect that nano plate or your copper or carbon electrode.
Yeah, sorry. By the way, iodine, not a metal, it's a halogen, same like fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, astatine.
Yeah, it's non-conducting.
So I'm just wondering whether to make so-called GANs of iodine, or to use iodine salts when you make the other GANs of cesium or other the nearby materials which were recommended.
Yeah, the non-metal Ganses, I'm having some confusion with the non-metal materials for Ganses.
Well, I think Mr. Keshe was trying to get us to combine the field forces of zinc, zinc,
CO2 and CH3, I think, wasn't it?
and I think it was a.
So he gave us a hint: if you cannot create the GANs of such a heavy material like tellurium or cesium and iodine and xenon, the four recommended, In that case, you can create that field strength by, if you can manage how to add together the strength of the smaller strength fields. It's,
Yes,
it's
but
the question is you need a creative process to find out how can you add the fields. We have learned how to subtract them when you made the CO2 kit. You have a copper plate with a nano copper on it, which is of strength of 59. You have a zinc plate, which is the strength of 65, and you subtract them to create that field strength of 6, which is needed to attract the carbon. So can somebody find out how not to subtract, but how to add those fields? In that case, you can produce the fields of heavier elements just by using non-heavy elements. Remember once Mr. Keshe told that he had a lab where in Belgium, and it was due to some institutes, scientists' decision that what he produced can be made only by radioactive materials, and that's why they did so many searches, and they never found any radioactive materials. But meanwhile, he said he was able to produce radioactivity by using the fields of other elements, and just to produce as much as is needed and then to stop it.
Yes, I think Mr. Keshe said the 3 elements. I don't understand any.
Oh, actually,
I don't remember which 3. I thought it was just the basic.
Element number 52, 53, 54, and 55. Tellurium, indium, xenon, and cesium.
Cesium, yeah.
Those are the ones you need to mix. Those 3, which ones?
Tellurium, indium, not indium, sorry, iodine. Tellurium, iodine. It's next
No,
to
I need to get iodine. To get iodine, I think Mr. Keshe said you need copper oxide, CO2, and CH3. He definitely said 3 gases you can use to mix that'll total iodine. When I saw that, but that didn't make sense because we've been doing that already. I have been, we all have been, right? Mixing those 3. Is that the fields of the soul? Is that iodine when you mix the 3?
What is the field strength of iodine? Can you tell us?
No, yeah, it's on the Wikipedia there. I don't remember. I'm really bad at
You
that.
don't have to remember. You open your reference and you see a periodic table of elements.
Yeah, there it is.
Atomic mass is 127 and around that, because it has also isotopes. There are lighter and heavier isotopes. So it's something around 127. So how much are the field strengths of what you told earlier? The copper oxide 96, the CO2 44, the CH3 15. How much is it you add them together?
I don't know. Bad at math. What is
So
that?
it's just the elementary class, second class to add together numbers. It's not a difficult task. And now we have calculators on all the computers. You just click on the calculator and it's just simple.
Yeah, but off the top of my head, it sounds like it's more than 127. So it's not matching the field strength, it's going beyond it.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to tell.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what they were and all now, but when I did that before, but Mr. Keshe definitely said 3, I thought he said, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Does anybody remember that? He actually said 3 gases that you would get to mix to get iodine field strength. Anybody remember?
I don't recall those words.
No, I don't think those were his words. Maybe that was what I was hoping to hear.
So sometimes our memory does tricks, so what we don't see fully, we complete it by our imagination. Yeah. That's why a stage magician can fool us and can surprise us. Because we don't see what it is, we see what we want to see. Is it so, Rick?
I was going to say that Shandor knows about that quite intimately. Being
I just had about 13 years of stage experience in my past, distant past, when I was younger.
Right.
So nobody remembers Mr. Keshe giving listing 3 gases and totaling them up and saying iodine. I'll have to look again. I'll watch the video again, but okay.
Yeah, it'd be good to get some more information on that. This is a whole new thing.
So think about. Sorry. Sorry. when
No,
you
no, please.
when you the
Let you guys arm wrestle for it.
sorry. Speak, please.
No, no. I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, I get to say something.
Can you remember, Shandor?
I think
I just wanted to say, to ask such a rhetorical question, rhetoric question. So, if you are making the GaNs of the copper by using sodium chloride, so how about to use the let's say sodium iodide, or potassium iodide salt for producing GaNs of tellurium, for instance?
Of delirium? Of what? Of iodine? You mean? No. What was the
So
last one?
iodine has salts. So you know those pills which were distributed in the 50s in the time of the Cold War for the people who were afraid of the Soviets' nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
What are those iodine pills are made of? It's an iodine salt.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you just need just to make your copper using iodized salt.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Let me share screen just for a minute.
Sure. Go
Let's
ahead.
see if I can do this. Okay, I didn't put the volume on, but there's the picture at 437 minutes where he was talking about it. If I go back and unshare screen, yeah, this is a public one, so I can do that all over again. I could I could play the audio. Just a minute. Let me stop share, and I'll go share again. And I would put on share computer sound.
Right.
And then I would go to this one here. And so here's where it is. Let's see what it says.
And the power. And my power belongs to
I probably have to back it up. There's what he was talking about.
Change.
He's using copper and he was using zinc.
That's all. Right.
How about that?
No, wait a minute. Stop. You need to go farther. Here he's got two circles. I think it's the physical power.
I'm going to play it.
Oh.
You're not seeing it very well. Is that right, Rick? And you're saying I need to. Okay, stop it. I stop shared. Now what do you want me to do? I don't know if I can do that. I'm not that smart. Anyway, shall I hit the play button? It's probably in my video settings that I'm having a problem. Video settings. Let me see. Video settings. Don't do me any good. Spotlight my video when I speak. No, hide down video partition. Okay, well, I'm going to play it. Maybe we can get the best we can get just for a moment. But this is just.
Maybe you have a
Yes, of
boundary
course.
limitation.
So
Probably.
go and start writing the true scientific papers. And we don't need Wikipedia. We saw all the wikis turned up to be abuses.
It's probably not where we were. Maybe we're behind. I'm going to go fast forward a little bit.
That choking
That's
feeling
Bernie.
is the limitation of I don't want to give
That's
because
about
the
Bernie's
future can
experiment.
change. You, Professor, yesterday. We can deliver a technology
Well,
both
I
to
don't
the
have the right
Americans
spot,
and
but
to
it's there somewhere. I have to go back and view it in order to get my information. So I'm gonna stop share because I'm setting us off on a tangent. I set you off on a tangent. Somebody else who wants to do it can do it, but but I thought he was making it rather simple for us, so we didn't have to go get and make the iodine GANs itself, but figure out how to set up our GANs as we already know.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he did tell us how to, what Sandra was saying, how to combine the fields. We're right at it though. So I'll look at myself too as well. I think we may have already been doing it all along, actually, in a way. Like a lot of the things that we didn't know we were doing when we were doing them. Anyway, okay, thank you
Well,
for that.
there's a couple ways of looking at this soul stuff, and one is I guess the first nature that I would want to look at was being proof my own. I'm not really interested in finding out what somebody else is really up to, although that may be something that would have value at a particular time. But the other is getting myself in tune, especially if I want to create the plasma fields just with my own emotion and my own soul, where I'm not utilizing the physical structure of creating.
That's exactly what I'm
plasma.
looking for.
That's
One
exactly
what I'm looking for. Same exact thing. That's what I'm looking for.
Well,
I know somebody made glasses. I was like, that's cool to look at others, but I want it because I want to find myself. I think that's the only way I can fly my.
That was pretty was pretty interested in what Klaus was doing, because he's on the he was on the health side, and how he was able to extend that healing technique from his from a new standpoint that he had come to, a new understanding that he had come to. So that was
see the guy's soul. So he used it for the right way, yeah. But I'm not a doctor, and I'm, I want to find my, if I can find myself, then maybe I can help the others that way.
No, you're right. That's what he was intending. He was saying the closeness of it.
Sorry, in the live stream, my audio wasn't on there. Let me just explain. I was talking about Klaus and his glasses. That was my things I was showing here, and the glasses are tubular with GANs, water inside, and they're kind of strange looking. And we were talking about how it affects him. And
I think he put one over his third eye too, and that's why it went up.
Could be, yeah. And the thing is, just a simple act of doing that, of putting on these bizarre shaped glasses and going out in public, or just being around others that give you some feedback, I think that's enough to activate one's own presence, to be more aware, more into that moment, more awake in that moment, just because of the sort of the levity of the situation. You're taking a bit of a risk by showing this playful part of oneself. At the same time, you're a doctor. This is a pretty serious situation. A doctor's wearing these really funny looking glasses, and people are going,
So he might as well have been wearing a Groucho Marx.
Yeah, right. And but here he has some very serious concepts and deep knowledge that's involved with this simple act. But at the same time, it takes some gusto. It takes a bit of initiative to actually put them on and go out in public, where you might not have that impression that you are that aloof doctor, that's the authority in the culture and so on. Here you are playing around with these strange looking glasses. It takes a bit of guts to do that. And I think that's an activating force, that will to do that. Automatically you feel like you're sort of in the center of attention in a way, but not in a egotistical way, in a way that it's more focused and just there in the moment, and really looking and able to pay attention to others and be more empathetic and so on, just because you did it. And I wonder if that's part of the effect, or is there other obviously you're interacting at the same time with this GANs, and maybe there's amino acids and so on that are part of his structure that are in these glasses, and he's able to somehow be more, it seemed like, more empathetic to others, or more telepathic, more able to interact with others.
Yeah, that's how I think he's.
I just had a thought.
Sorry, can't hear.
I think what you're saying about the mirror glasses. I just thought about what I said originally about how the glasses are for looking out, but I was thinking two-dimensionally. I would guess that, like you just said, the act of him wanting to do that, to see the souls, and when he puts it on, how he probably sees his own soul, and that's how he's connecting to the other souls. This is plasma, three-dimensional, not.
It's always a two-way street there, right? When if you try to reach out, then it reaches out to you, and so if you have the intention of trying to reach other souls and see more deeply and see the truth, let's say, then that requires that part of you to come up, to be present during that time, because it's part of the requirements of must have certain credentials to be present in the moment space where one is connected to everything. Anyway, I don't mean to get too much into that, but what else about that?
Well, thank God for that.
Sorry, Zoltan just said that he will try to send a short video, which you just made.
Oh, okay.
Waiting for it to transfer.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to say or show? I see Zoltan is here in the chat. And do you think you can be present at the Knowledge Seekers Workshop, Zoltan? Or can Shandor ask you? I'm not sure if you're able to.
It will depend that he will have to do the funeral ceremonies this week, and it's not yet established on which day. He's a pastor in a small village.
Right.
He
Okay.
assistance for the soul of the people.
Yeah. So maybe next workshop or something then.
So of course he would like to.
And then there's the security clearance kind of thing too that should probably be straightened out.
How to do that security clearance? I know there are special forms for manufacturers, for those who want to participate to the teachings, but is there a special security clearance form for such a general purpose?
Yeah,
So
I'm not clear on that exactly.
It's no problem. He can send also his dossier, his folder from the Securitate from the 80s, if somebody wants to know why he became a minor for a period of time, for some couple of years. You know, the past regime didn't like people who can talk to the people.
Yeah, I'm not sure how the approach goes on that. I was told that people should be cleared by security before presenting things in the workshop. And most people have been cleared already, they're regulars and so on, but there's also new people that come in that are supposed to be cleared. Now,
it's very good. So there is a security group who is taking care to check the personal data which are submitted, to do a little vetting, a background check to see whether it's a good man or a criminal or something. We don't want criminals in. And grace to that, for instance, in the near past, we had blocked somebody from Canada who was 1 week later arrested after Ikaitia was arrested as being part of Andrangheta. Maybe you have seen the news there.
yes, right. Yep.
Mafiosos.
Yep.
But the thing is that they are working based on data which they receive online, and for that there are forms, and I don't know if there is a special form for such a general purpose. I know there are forms for teachers who want to become to establish local foundations or to become.
Yeah, I don't think there's a form. No form, so far as I know. Maybe that's something we should do, is have a standardized way of vetting the people that want to present things in the workshops.
Yes, of course, of course.
Okay, we'll probably have to talk to Mr. Keshe about that.
Security group to do that. I know just the programmer is working on development, making several new forms, etc.
Okay, well, that's something we definitely have to.
It should be. It depends on the kind of the clearance. You need a different clearance just to talk, to present something. Then you need a different clearance if you will have access to such a classified data. It's a deeper one.
Yeah, that's right.
One for that. So
yeah.
It's a normal. You know, in Europe, for instance, in business, companies are obliged to do such a vetting of their new customers just to avoid money laundering.
Yep. And also, just to let people know, if they want to become part of the Keshe Plasma Reactor group in the Skype group, that was the original format that we've used now for several years, then you have to be vetted before allowed to be part of that group as well. There's actually two Keshe Plasma Reactor groups, Keshe Plasma Reactor Group and Keshe Plasma Reactor Group 3. So,
by the way, I see there are several names of those who just left, and now they are spreading the bad words about the foundation. They are still there, so isn't there a problem that they are still there?
Okay, well, if you can give me those names after, if you can give me those.
This COSOL group, and COSOL recently he said that now we terminate, we finish with Keshe Foundation, we destroy it, and such idiot words. And there are also other who was a former student and asked for a full refund, and later she makes declarations of how bad it was, etc. So just I'm wondering about. Suddenly we have requested to do clearance for some reliable people, which I know, and some unreliable are still on.
Well, if you can give me the list of those unreliable ones, then we can look at that and have them removed.
The security has it. The security group. I'm not anymore in the security group. I can give you, of course, information.
Well, that would be fine if it's, something that is, if there's abuses going on, then it would be good to know, and I'll remove people from the group if that's the case.
Okay. Because we have also somebody who make trouble, and others just to pick up insider information to give it to others to work out ways how to attack us in social media.
Yeah, they can try, but whatever they do is just good for publicity more than anything else.
Well, I got to say something.
Pardon me?
You know, I understand the need to protect, the work and all that stuff, and it's vital, and it has to be done. But you also, I just thinking, off the top of my head, that you got to make sure you don't just take anybody who has problems with Keshe technology or has genuine, dissent, but they're not there for the purpose of destroying. Just to have people who agree only and never have any other kind of point of view if they're honest about it. The people that have to be, I don't know, I'm just kind of throwing that in there as a little, don't want to be, become the enemy.
Yeah, that's right. You got to be tolerant is what the thing is, and it gets increasingly difficult to be tolerant of dissent when the dissent can do real damage to a company that's trying to do good work in the world. So it's a bit of a fine line between tolerating the trolls and bumping them off as they pop up like a whack-a-mole game. It's some people are born rebels, and that's the type of people that are going to be attracted to this technology. It takes a bit of a rebel to accept, to even contemplate some of these ideas. People get.
It's not a problem up to the time when he starts to publish such anarchist callings, as it happened once with somebody. Or it happens also for people who are just hungry for getting attention for what they have their own ideas or fixed ideas sometimes. Like we had this nice man who is talking with his imaginary artificial intelligence. He does that for over 10 years, and now he found here a large audience, and immediately he entered, he showed nice face, and later he started to pull out people to his own ideas.
Yeah, but I say, so what? Because we're pulling people out of his group as well at the same time. So what's wrong with some cross-pollination? What's wrong with competition? There's nothing wrong with competition. We can use competition. Pardon me? Sorry? Sorry, I didn't hear that. Sorry?
Sorry, that it's not a cross-pollination. It's nothing useful from there, but at least he helps by taking away those who are doubters, who are doubting and hesitating.
Well, that's right. Sure. So there's a double service there. There might be people that are tired of his approach, that have a lot of his information that might be useful to us, or that would be, they find a better way with the Keshe technology and recognize it as being a more true way to operate. And at the same time, those that are doubters and are always going to be doubters can get taken away and find something else to play with that they're happy with. So to me, it's a win-win situation and that kind of thing, and I don't feel threatened at all by those kind of people anymore, and I don't even play their games and don't really care what they do, because they cannot possibly harm something with this plasma technology. It's coming out through the Keshe Foundation and in other ways if it has to, but the Keshe Foundation is a perfect medium right now, and that's the way it's happening, and there's nothing in this universe that's going to stop that from happening right now. And it may appear that way, and there may appear to be blockages and stoppages and opposing forces and this and that. They don't have a bloody chance. They just don't have a chance against that force of love, essentially, that's at the core of this technology. And that's the bottom line. If people and other technologies don't have that, they do not have a chance. A chance in hell. Snowball's chance in hell, as they say, of destroying the Keshe Foundation or plasma technology or changing the future and making it so we don't dig ourselves out of this mess and so on that we find ourselves in as humans. It is going to happen. There's absolutely no doubt about it, and I don't think we have to really be too worried about it. Some people will get concerned and be part of the opposition to the opposition and so on. We need to have that. That's all part of it as well, and we need to show that we have opposition to these trolls and others that are detractors. But the ultimate bottom line is they don't have a chance. I feel sorry for them and compassion, and it's you can get with the game, or you can join ship or jump ship or try to attack the ship. Do whatever you want, but this ship will go on. There's absolutely no doubt.
I'm trying to make a ship. Rick. that's a real challenge. Is trying to make that spaceship.
Well,
there's also another point. There's another point, though. There's a difference between that fella who's got his own agenda, but he doesn't hide the fact that he's gotten this technology from Keshe, and he does make Ganses, and people buy them, and even if they don't work, they're still in the presence of these fields, and it gets spread. And there's some detrimental thing, but there's a difference between somebody who's given patents. Mr. Keshe gave the patents away to him to use however he wants to do, as long as he doesn't pose it as Keshe sold technology. He's not breaking any laws, or he's not doing anything illegal. There's a difference between him, yes, leading some away and, temporarily, putting people off because it's not a good product. The difference between that and an organized conspiracy to come in and infiltrate and destroy. There's a definite difference. That fella, he saw an opportunity, he took it. It's given to him. That's the purpose. It's to serve him. He deserves to be served as long as we all have our own agendas. Hopefully not as selfish. I don't mean to call him selfish or whatever. He's doing it to serve himself more than he's doing it to serve others. But others at the end are getting served. If they get frustrated, it's their problem that they don't go look for the Keshe Foundation to buy the real product, or learn how to make it themselves or whatever. But I just wanted to make that point. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's right. So, there's lots of different ways to look at these kinds of things, but generally, something just dove into my reactor and jumped back out again. That was interesting. Anyway, I don't think we have to discuss it too much more, probably. I like to keep things orientated more on the scientific end of things as much as possible, and let the various detractors and trolls sort themselves out as they may. But anyways, I'm glad that it gets brought up, and glad we have a little talk about it. It's good to bring these things up in the open and just know more about it. So,
well, okay, I was last week, and even I had a little, as I start to make this the new plasma generators, where you put your box full of GANS water, liquid plasma, and the plasma in the bottom, the mixture, and you start to build your reactor. Found out there was a lot of ways to do things.
Do you have some video you'd like to show, Denny, or?
I had drawn up something that I was going to make, and and it was simple enough, and so I've got the parts. I might want to see what I can do here. I'll see if I can open up this particular one. It's a okay. Here I go. Now that I got that open, let me see if I can then get back to screen share. Screen share, and there it is. So I've got. I think you can see that.
Oh, it's really pixelated. Again, I have a. I don't know if it's just me or what here, but it's. Do everybody have a choppy picture? You can't read the print. Any other feedback on that?
I can't get any feedback.
Well,
okay,
I can see the. It's hard to read the print. It's all kind of blocky and strange looking,
well,
but I can see the picture's good.
There's no sense sharing if it's.
Try sharing a window rather than sharing your desktop.
I don't know what that.
Should give you a choice of the window or the desktop.
I'll just take a look and see why I'm not understanding what's going on. It says.
So you go to your share screen, and what do you see there? Do you have several options as what to select?
It says it has several, and I'm not sharing my desktop. I'm sharing a window of a print software.
And you don't have the optimized for full screen video clip checked? I don't think you should check that.
I got that on. I'm going to take that off.
That might help.
I'm going to do this one more time.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yes. That was it.
So
thank you. That's way gooder.
So this is the once I saw Armin's thing, this was a combination of everything. I threw everything in the kitchen sink on this. I wanted to have 2 axles. I wanted to have 2 motors, and so I went down and bought me two slow spinning battery powered drills, one for each side.
Mm-hmm.
And I got me the bearings, and I already had those plastic balls like Armin showed.
Yeah.
I already have those. I've had those for months.
Yeah.
And so I have copper washers that there are the yellow turners. Those I have, and so that's what I was going to do. I was going to spin the copper washers, and over here. Oh, I better annotate. I can do annotate, so that makes it a lot easier when I annotate. So this side here spins the red ball.
Mm-hmm.
This side here spins the copper washers that I was putting together. And this right here was just a 3/8 inch copper tube.
And you've got 2 other spheres around the red one.
Yeah, this the red one I was just going to put the copper oxide GANs. This one here I was going to put the combination, the in between the red and the blue, the copper oxide zinc combination, and the outside was let me see, the outside here is CH3. So I had 3 layers, and then of course out here was my were my mag gravs, and in here I had smaller mag gravs, and they acted like spinners. They acted like stirring beaters as well, and so they're spinning on this axle here because it's spinning this here. And what you can't see behind this, maybe I have it in another picture, but I have to get off of the annotate to do it. But right here, there's another stirrer that stirs the CH3, and they're just at the end. So that was throwing everything plus the kitchen sink, and that's it right here.
Exactly.
Throwing everything plus the kitchen sink into this.
Well, that's about it. It looks simple on paper, but it's hard to get all the bearings and everything all to fit into each other and stuff. But are you going to actually go through with this and complete it?
This one I've started working on.
Okay,
So,
good.
Let me see. I got to get rid of annotate. Stop share. Okay, annotate. I get rid of this. So that gives me a chance to move this back and forth. So that right there tells me where I'm putting everything.
Yeah.
But this one here that's colored, it gives you some imagination.
So yeah, nice.
I was showing another person what I was doing. Of course, I can't do it this way because my drills they fit better sideways. I lost everything. There it is. So that's what I'm gonna make, but it's so antiquated that when I see everybody who don't even have to have motors and don't have to spin this thing, and I was a little disappointed. The 121st, not this Knowledge Seekers, or maybe it was before that. Yeah, it was before that. Armin was showing where you don't need motors, and he was going to put it together, and it hasn't come back for the last 2 weeks. How he was going to do that without using motors.
Yeah, it's a tricky deal, isn't it? We've seen some revelations like we saw earlier tonight with the configurations and so on, but to get some actual rotation action, there's another fellow, Rene Meshish, who has an interesting video of a vortex created by a rotating magnet under a test tube-like tube. And the ingredients in the tube are rotating a very good vortex from the rotating magnet underneath the tube. And I wanted to find out more about that maybe in the next workshop. But yeah, great, Denny. That's nice to see you working at that. And it's very similar design as we saw in some of the early reactors from the Keshe patent, actually. With the rotating parts inside and so on. If you put the whole thing under vacuum, you'd have basically the same components as the initial Keshe reactors.
It was so funny, though, in that 121st Knowledge Seeker, Keshe was saying, you can perforate those spheres. They can have holes in them. And so what I've done, I have some GANs being made, so I put the small spheres into my GAN, my CuO2 mixture that I'm making, and then I put the medium one in the CO2 zinc combination, because I don't think I can right now. I have the skill to separate the zinc and the CO2 out, so I call it a CO2 zinc one, and then I've got the larger one in the CH3. So basically, I'm trying to imbue them with the fields for another experiment, so that if I just put them together, throw the liquid GANs in it, I've got the field stored in the
right
plastic already.
Yes,
and
yes.
I don't know if that works because I don't have the experience or the confidence in it. But
right. Well,
I have to get it by making it. There's only one way to get that experience and confidence, is to make it.
That's right. Yep. It's like this. How do you join the Siemens Union and go to C? Well, you have to be the C to get to join the Siemens Union. Well, how do you get to go to C if you haven't joined the Siemens Union? Well, you can't. So how do you get to go to C and be in the Siemens Union? Well, you got to sneak on board. And then you get to be in the Siemens Union after they find you there, and a couple of weeks later, and you're doing the work. So yeah, it's kind of like that in a way. You have to create it in order to find out what it's going to do. So,
So the other thing that I'm doing just for the fun of sharing things with everybody is that, so I've got these 33-gallon drums, water drums or barrels, but they're drums. And I'm making my GANs in that. I'm using the electrolysis of the method with the gouging rods. And this 33-gallon barrel with the CuO2, I don't mind putting my tap water into that. But my copper oxide, I use distilled water. The copper oxide, I found out from Don and John that they nano coated their copper when they put it into when they used the carbon rod and to make the the copper oxide, not the copper oxide. And so I had this great big, back when I was making these frames to put the flight system on that we were taught about a couple months ago. It came out of the innovation where they used the egg-shaped reactors, and so I made this frame out of this copper frame out of 3/4 inch tubing, and so I had that all nano coated and all beautiful, and so it just fit right into that 33-gallon. See, you guys don't go by gallons, so I probably have to use to show, and that's probably 150 liters, somewhere in the neighborhood, maybe a little less, 145 liters, 33-gallon drum. And the reason I'm doing this is just, okay, I got spooked a little bit about the earthquake and the breaking away from the South American continent and the Yellowstone volcano going off. So I said, well, I better get some storage for emergency uses around the neighborhood.
Értem, először föltöltődött a szerve. Sorry.
And so that's why I went to these big barrels. And then once I have the GANs in them, I stir them with a paddle and to energize once I try to do it with the least amount of salt so that I don't have to mess with salt. If I can get a good GANs produced with a smaller amount of salt, that means I have less washing. And so I found out that I can only have to wash it once, and then I put the salt back into my reactor barrel, and I can go by the taste. And if I don't taste salt, and there's still going to be some in there, and I can wash it out. Then as I use it, the first one where I don't taste salt, I use that as basically a starter to take that particular liquid plasma and to use that as a starter for, like, say, I would use a cup full of that liquid plasma to a gallon of distilled water. Then I've got a lot of the salt out. I've diluted it pretty good. But what I've then started doing, because of stirring the liquid plasma with a paddle. Have you ever seen anything about biodynamic gardening, where they have a big barrel and they'll stir the water and then the nutrients in the water one direction and get a vortex going, and as soon as they get a good vortex going, they turn it the other direction, and it makes a big disturbance in the water, and then it starts a vortex the other way. And the reason I'm doing this is because the thing that Mr. Keshe talked about, energizing the water, energizing the liquid plasma by stirring it, you can increase your strength.
Yes, that's right. You talked about putting it in a blender, for example.
Yes, and so I was doing it that way. Then I get all I get all shamanic by then I can beat the shamanic rhythm on the side of the drum where I'm out there, and you're putting your love and your gratitude into the liquid plasma, and you can do this while the actual you're actually generating your liquid plasma. So I've waxed shamanic as I make my liquid cans. So, but the thing of it is, with those big drums now, I'm getting the potent liquid plasma in case of emergencies. If somebody then wants to come, I got to stock them. And since I'm buying all those distilled water gallon jugs, I have nothing to. I've got to recycle them some way, so I fill them back up with liquid plasma.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
because I made this one reactor with 40 gallons of distilled water. You know,
What do you do with it?
At a gallon.
Invite all your neighbors over for a bath?
A gallon of distilled water costs somewhere around 92 cents, 88 to 92 cents, depending on where I get it.
That's right.
So that's a very precious commodity, that distilled water. And so I thought to myself, I have got to learn how to make plasma water. I have to learn how to make a generator that generates water so that I can have plenty of plasma for this. Because when you start to look at, if there was kind of a turmoil, and if you don't have your spaceship made by then, you're going to have a hard time even convincing people that you can help them. And so you're still going to have to go through a step-by-step process to help people. And you can't help them if you don't have any storage yourself.
You are very right regarding help. You can waste the help unless there is a hope from the side of receiver. You can only have that one who has hope. That who didn't reach with his mind, with his awareness about there is a hope, he will not accept any kind of help. Somebody can, for instance, be in deep despair, and he doesn't see the way out. So you have to bring him up from despair step by step to find out what it makes ruining his life, and what's having an effect on him, and that has to be changed, and has to be improved, and he has to realize who has to do something to improve the conditions. Because the nature of the conditions is if you don't interact, that things by themselves don't go better. You see, if you have your fence made of wood, if you don't paint it, it will get rotten after a while. If you don't paint your fence, it will get rusty if it's from metal. If you don't shine your shoes, they will not get shiny by themselves. You have to maintain them. If you don't sweep your house, you will get dust and dirt. Same with other conditions. And later you have to show them that there is a way, that somebody, you can give a hope. Somebody did in this way and he succeeded. And when he has hope, in that case, you can offer the hope and he will grab it. So it is the hardest way to understand how to make people understand what you want. It needs a kind of salesmanship somewhere. By the way, in the meanwhile, I got a video from Zoltan that his computer heated up and switched off. I have here the video, it's 2 minutes. He is showing this mixture of gases which was spinning at the moment. It's not spinning right now. And he shows how his reactor looks and other things where he misses in very strange places.
You can show that now or not?
Yeah, I have nothing. I would love you to do that. Thanks.
Be great.
Thank you for your patience. Oh, and I'm not sharing the sound.
Okay, we can see it.
Do you see anything?
Yeah.
So this is I just showing spots. So this is this plasma reactor on the top of the fridge. It doesn't hold straight to the camera, and you see there in some points he's measuring some presence of electricity, and this is let's go to the beginning. So this is his mixture of gases, which
Okay, wait a minute. What did we just see there, Shandor? It showed his detector.
On his desk, on his kitchen desk, on his working desk, there is the mixture which produces that spinning. It's a 3 meters distance from the Negev, and what you see now on his vinyl cover, it's a cheap vinyl cover. He is measuring the voltage.
Right.
On his desk, and not on other things.
So it seems insulated by that piece of paper, but the plastic is has a charge.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it's quite a couple of steps away from the magnet.
Okay, so
like the lighter.
So there's definitely some fields underneath or inside of this container at this point. Then it's not like it's totally isolated from itself or anything, even electrically speaking. Like, look at that, yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
See, around the plastic container, it is the voltage. It's a live detector, the cheapest.
Yeah, how far away from the Maglev did you say it was?
About 3 meters. You will see now how many steps he makes.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps away.
Oh, I see.
The fridge doesn't show voltage. In the past it has shown, and this is his Maglev.
I see.
Made in some plastic boxes.
And it's only showing a field like really close to it too. You can see it going off and on there.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
Oh, that's all. So I told him to have his camera handy if he sees again such a spinning thing. In that case, he should take better a video instead of taking still photos.
Okay.
Because if something is moving, it's better to see it in a motion picture.
Yes, definitely.
And by the way, what we have seen yesterday at the Knowledge Seekers workshop, this special Knowledge Seeker workshop, that spinning liquid, it's really the most fantastic thing in the history of the science.
That was Gatua. He showed that Dr. Gatua, who's the who teaches the agriculture.
Yes, he is.
And he's a very pleasant individual.
Interesting thing. So he told what he used for, and we all have the components. We have these gases, the liquid, the top of the gases. Of course, they have to be washed with salt. So you will have to waste some distilled water, but you don't waste it because the water which you use it for cleaning the gas, you put in a bottle which is labeled, and you use it to fill your kit for making gas. So you have the CO2 kit, you refill with the water which you use to wash the CO2 gas. Same with the copper washing liquid you use to refill the same evaporating water from that kit which you use. In this way, you put back the salts in their place, and you save the distilled water. And what you use from the last washing, that's the so-called liquid plasma. Just before to use it, shake it up together with gas, shake it up well to energize it well, and let the gas go to the bottom, and you use the water from the top. You make a mixture of all the gases. So I just shown yesterday to the Hungarian group in their language. So I just made the same drawing what was shown by Mr. Gatwa. So you see here it's this jar made of plastic with the mixture of the gases, gas waters, and some gas on the bottom. And here on the top it's the ball. There are two balls, one inside the other, and fixed with a nano-coated copper wire. It's just to keep this in the middle. It's no any other purpose. It works without that too. And outside, in the outer ball, I understood he has a CO2 gas, so please correct me if my understanding what had any luck. And here inside, so here he put a mixture of all his gases which he used, so CO2, CH3, copper oxide, plus the amino acid of each, from the top of each gas. And to add some amino acid of his own, to have some kind of control. Let me he switched the camera, so he just took some dead skin from his hair. But others use the same, just putting the drop of blood. So to put some protein from your own body to have a direct connection with yourself for your control, because that's part of this phenomenon. You see?
Sandra, would sweat work? Sweat?
No. It's not amino acids. Sweat is just water with salt and some things which the body wants to get rid. It's same like urine. It's just what your body doesn't need much. So you can use that for.
But the oil on your skin is amino acid. So that's
no. The oil is oil. Amino acid is amino acid. It's the top layer. So if you have hair, you put a piece of paper and you make like this, you will have something there, unless you are using head and shoulders.
Yeah, you got to stop using that stuff. You won't be able to activate your center core.
Or you just put a piece of a small drop of blood, like you take for a test for taking your blood sugar, for instance, for glycemia.
Oh, that hurts.
A little bit, and after 5 minutes you forget about it.
This was very interesting how he was doing this, Shando. There was a couple of other questions that I had. He said, well, I did this by, just like Mr. Keshe said, he said, I built a bath, didn't he? And he put this ball that he had in a bath of liquid plasma, a combination of liquid plasma and the combination GANs. This ball first was inoculated in that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you have to understand what happens. Mr. Keshe explained it very well, so you can listen again. So if here you have a CO2 gas, and here inside you have a mixture. It's a CO2, it's a CH3, it's a copper oxide, and it's an amino acid. And plus it's your own amino acid for control.
When he made that ball itself,
you have a mix of liquid plasma, so the water from all your gases and the little GANs. And because here is a mixture, what happens? So here somewhere you have the field of hydrogen, for instance, and that field of hydrogen and the field strength of hydrogen somewhere in this mixture try to get in balance. And they get in interaction. And it tries to move, to spin, to twist, to get in balance. In the other part, you have, for instance, such a copper, which finds a copper field strength here, and that also wants to get into the balance. And what happens while these two plasmas with different strength at different places try to or several ones try to get in balance, so this point to get as close as possible to this one, if it's gravitational force, or in the same time, this point from here tries to get in balance with this one, and if you have a big randomity, whenever it twists for one to position, the other moves also and gets out of balance, and that again makes another force. So you cannot get a motionless thing unless you get a perfect balance. Of course, you have also the balance with the fields of the environment you have around. And this is how all the universe has moving things inside, without motors, without jet fuels and other things. It's just trying to get its position. So you have a field here, you have another field here, you have another field here. You have to understand you have a high strength in the middle and it's decreasing. And let's say from here you have from hydrogen to, let's say, uranium, and you have some here carbon, you have some here oxygen, you have some here copper, and so on. And the same field strength places in these independent plasmas, they get in interaction. And there will be an attraction or repulsion between them. And these try to go into the balance. So that's why this one tries to move to here, and this one tries to move to here. But in the meanwhile, there is another one, let's say, for instance, the strength of copper here and the strength of copper here, these also try to get in balance. And this and the other also tries to get into balance. And they try like a big clockwork to try to get into a position where all the fields to get in balance. And that never happens for over, who knows how many trillions of years.
Yeah, well, that happens within the atoms and the electrons, the inside the atom as well, between the electron and the proton and the neutron.
You know, from the classical academical sciences of the so-called Brownian motions of the molecules, that they are bouncing everywhere.
Yeah.
So this is the reason why.
Well, that turned the liquid plasma in his plastic container that he had the ball on top. But when he, I don't know how he was, did he have a bath where the ball set in that originally? Did he have a tub where when he made that ball, did he have, or did he go directly to this?
And we don't know what was his purpose. So he was following the previous teachings to put liquid and to make plasma into liquid. And he just had this jar and he put that ball, okay, where to put it? Because it's rolling away from the table, he just put it there and he observed, wow, it's spinning.
Pretty clever.
So later now he works on another thing where he has shown his bucket, and in which we has a mixture of all kind of liquid plasmas. And we find a better pen, just more ink into it. And either this one. I have to throw away some pens, sorry. Let's try to find another one. And here he has put some floating balls there with different charges, and putting something on the top and trying to make here such a motion. So we'll see these will be positioning one in respect to each other in certain way and creating certain formation.
We saw a similar thing with Douglas as well. He showed 3 balls in a bucket that were arranging themselves with a rotating ball.
Yeah, more people are working on it, and you can work also. So to buy some cheap plastic balls, it's not a complicated thing. You see, there are such toy dispensers, for instance, in some supermarkets or stores. You can buy a toy for kids for putting 2 coins inside, and you can use those, and you can get in different sizes.
Yeah,
you can use your ganses to make combinations. Think about how you make it. Or you have the tiny paintball, acrylic paintball, not the gelatin, but the acrylic ones. Such a empty paintball shells. So it's easy to find different dimensions and just to put them together. You don't need a recipe, so where from to buy how. Look around what you can find.
Yeah, I have some of those acrylic balls.
Yeah.
Had them for quite a while for other experiments that I was going to use.
By the next week, it would be nice to see more people replicating this one to create motion without using motors and batteries.
Yeah, it'd be great to see some more people trying that and getting some more results. I think that's important right now. It seems to be the focus.
And don't forget the amino acid for having the control and the connection.
Right on. Thank you for all the reminders there, Shandor.
Thanks for your patience.
What did you say the last part? Don't forget what?
The amino acids.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's...
as a connection.
Yes. Well, I already started one of those also that Gadawad's done. He showed that in a private lesson too. He showed that before he went. And that was interesting. He didn't have time to go into it in the private lesson because he was talking about agriculture.
Okay, I see Randy has his microphone and video open. I'm wondering if you have some question or something you want to show. Oops. Now he turned his audio off, so I guess he didn't want to. I'll just mute your video then too. Okay, we need to wind things down here pretty soon. It's been 3.5 hours or more, or less, depending on how late we actually got started there. But anything more to show and tell, or any more questions?
I don't have anything, thanks.
Great, thanks, Rick, for today's light meeting. It was more convenient for me. I cannot wake up so early in the morning.
Okay, we'll try to be late for you next week too, Shandor. No, sorry.
But anyway, don't change for my sake, because for you it's very late night.
Yeah, it is, and I didn't expect it to be this late. I'm sorry for people that are trying to stay up and so on and so forth, or didn't attend because it was too late. But so it goes sometimes in my life.
You're already living in a universal time.
I think I've been only late for one other of these workshops over the last few hundred, so I'm not doing too bad. But anyway, let's wrap it up for today. We showed quite a bit, talked about a lot of topics, good participation. Thank you, everybody. It was really cool, some of the things we bring up, and I'm quite happy with the way things are going. Always like to see a little more progress, and I especially have to chastise myself in that regard. So I'm going to try to put together some things that actually can do stuff rather than talking about ideas and concepts that might do something. So that's the idea. Everybody out there, just keep trying things, and that's what the guys in Africa are doing and getting good results. So sometimes it's a matter of just putting something together and trying it, and often it's a relatively simple design, simple apparatus. It just takes the thinking it through to get to the point of making it simple, and that's sometimes difficult. So it's simple but not easy. But I think it's within the grasp of all of us to come close to this technology to the point we can give our understanding to others and have them increase their knowledge from what we do. So that's what it's all about, is sharing and bringing new understandings to each other. So let's carry on, and we'll see everybody next week around the same time and place. That'll be Tuesday sometime in August. I'm not sure which date it is, but it's almost always Tuesday night at 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific time for the Keshe Plasma Reactor group. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to shut down the live stream.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, and thanks once again to everybody for attending.